This episode is brought to you by Cellular Performance Institute. Is your body beat up and broken down? Look into stem cells today. It could change your life. Go to cellularperformanceinstitute.com. January 24th, I'll be in 10th Planet Boca Raton teaching Jiu Jitsu. Go to @10th Planet Boca Raton on Instagram for more information. Join Sam Tripoli and I on the road for Tinfoil Hat Comedy. Go to samtripoli.com for tickets. See you on the road.
I can't believe I won.
And you still got people out there with double masks and face shields and shit. Look into it.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Look Into It. Tonight, we're going to get into some murder conspiracies. Columbine, John Benet Ramsey, Kurt Cobain, with the host of Mindshock podcast, Bruce Maguire. How you doing, Bruce?
How's it going? The one and only Eddie Bravo.
So you're saying this is the first time you've been interviewed?
This is my first appearance on anybody's show.
Interesting. Wow. That's crazy. Why did, am I the first one to ask you, or you don't like to do them?
No, I've had a lot of people ask me. You actually asked me to do it a while ago. It's just, when things are busy and hectic, it's kind of hard to schedule stuff.
Yeah. Well, we were scheduled about a month ago, and then I couldn't get into my email. My email fucked everything up. And it was a combination of that, and I screwed up. I should have, because I had you in my calendar, and the calendar, will tell you, today you got this, today you got that, but I never saw it, and I relied on it too much. And then like 3 days after the podcast, still couldn't get into my email. So this is a new email. I had to start a new email. And then I realized, oh, shit, I totally fucked up on this podcast. So thank God we were able to reschedule it and,
Yeah, well, the amount of technical difficulties I have had, this has never happened before. I'm on my third backup computer, and because everything was crashing, and I was thinking to myself, wait a second, is it possible somebody really doesn't want this to happen?
I doubt it. I'm so irrelevant now. Now, that we got all these, we got Tucker, Candace Owens, Ian Carroll. We got all these guys saying the craziest shit. I'm irrelevant, just the way I like it.
Actually, I don't think so, so first of all, I have to give you credit. A lot of people might not know this, but Mindshock logical analyses might not exist if not for Eddie Bravo.
How is that?
So I started the podcast I think, wow, that was too much echo. Whoa. Okay. This is way better.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I started the podcast, 6-7 years ago, something like that. Mostly because I just noticed in the mainstream, there was never anybody actually logically discussing anything. Like even ghost hunters that believe in ghosts, they're not actually using logic to back anything up. And especially on the so-called debunker side, the official narrative steerers, those who just believe everything on the mainstream, they definitely weren't using logic. So I wanted to break down not just conspiracies, paranormal, true crime. I just wanted to break down everything and bring logic and reason back to a world where it is quickly going extinct. And when I saw you, okay, we got to talk about flat Earth a little bit, obviously. Obviously.
If you want. So, a lot of my guests don't want me to bring it up, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, if you've been keeping up, actually, one of the two, I've interviewed two flat Earth personalities. I've interviewed Flat Earth Dave and Mark Sargent on my show.
Okay.
And so some of the most popular logical analyses I've done were on flat Earth. And yours was one of the first when you brought it up on Joe Rogan, one of the first episodes where you guys talked about it for like 2 hours. And I was watching it And I was thinking to myself, wait a second. And that wasn't the first time I had seen you. I had seen you. You don't give yourself enough credit, because I do have some questions for you too, because you're deceptively logical, because you were always saying things like, well, I don't know for sure. I'm just saying, I think this is weird, which is obviously not a logical fallacy because you're not claiming it's true. But Joe Rogan was pushing back so hard on you, but he had nothing but logical fallacies while he was doing it. And one of my first logical analyses series, I don't know if you've seen that one, it's like 6 hours long, because I went through the whole interview and I'm like, wait a second. Like, Joe Rogan is seriously telling Eddie Bravo not to question things. Like, questioning is the whole foundation of science. And he was just kept going on like, well, why question? Why question? It was just so weird. But that logical analysis kicked off all these other logical analyses. And yeah, you were so sharp in that one, and you never claim. I think one of the reasons a lot of people like you is within the conspiracy. Can I use the word sphere? Within the conspiracy sphere is because you're so non-egotistical. And I've kind of noticed that even because I've watched a lot of your interviews, even like with jiu-jitsu, you're never talking about, or at least I haven't heard you say, oh, well, I'm an expert. Like, I got this rating. I beat all these people. When people ask you a jiu-jitsu question, you just answer the question because you actually have the technical knowledge. But in a lot of these debates, if you notice, all these like Harvard PhDs, like whether it's quack scenes or any of these topics, they're always going, well, I have a degree. Like, what's your, because they don't actually have any arguments. So I think you're still very relevant. And I think you opened a lot of people's eyes, especially on that joke, because I'm not the only one. Like, a lot of people mentioned this to me when you brought up Flat Earth on Joe Rogan, the time where you guys talked about it. I forgot which episode it was, but there was one episode where you guys talked about it for a long time.
Show me a real picture.
Listen, NASA does not have one of those satellites.
Fake.
Why do you think that's fake?
That's fake as fuck.
Why does it look fake
It looks
as fuck?
like something you'd see in a movie.
That's because when they do it in a movie, they try to make it look like this, which is what looks real.
If that's real to you, man, shit.
You don't think it's real? Why would it be fake?
It's propaganda, man.
Okay,
Why would they care that it's not
Is there
flat?
a photo of this flat Earth?
No, I don't. Like I just said again.
That's what I asked.
There's no photo of the flat Earth from space. There's no photo of the round Earth from space.
That's not true. That's not true.
True. It's all fake.
No, why do you say they're fake, though? What
they
evidence?
look fake. They look CGI.
But you're not an expert in imagery.
Looks fake to me.
Do you
What would
remember-
convince you,
hold on,
though?
hold
When I
on a
watch
second.
Avatar,
When
I
you
don't need to be an
watch-
expert to know it's
you went
fake.
to the
When I watch
movies, Eddie.
Avatar, I'm not an expert. It's fake.
Avatar's at the movies. Why do you always go towards the conspiracy? Why do you never consider the possibility
Too many
that maybe?
lies.
But
Too
Eddie, they're
many
not
lies.
the same people.
It's all the same.
So
I think you might have gotten literally millions of people to start questioning just because of that one appearance.
The one I saw you did with me and Joe Rogan was on nuclear bombs.
I did too. Yeah, I did that one, and then also the Flat Earth one.
I never saw the flat Earth one though.
So he's criticizing Eddie Bravo for not knowing that it's fake for sure, and yet he's pretending it's real for sure. Too funny. And he's getting very triggered now, as you can see in his micro expressions.
It's a real problem when you
I'm
say
crazy.
something, but don't say that.
I
Just
am.
stop. Just stop and think, because you're communicating to millions of people.
I saw the nuclear bomb one though. That was interesting.
Well, I've done a follow-up on that since. I don't know if you've seen it, but, and you weren't the first person I saw bring that up. I did a follow-up. It's like multiple hours, and I drop all the receipts, including the actual soil samples. And so, and the comparison of the tonnage of TNT, like versus, because they actually dropped, like if you compare Vietnam versus Hiroshima, Nagasaki, like there's really, it's kind of weird. People think there's a debate. If you look at it scientifically and look at the actual soil samples, even in the mainstream narrative, it doesn't add up. You have buildings that are completely structurally intact. Like they don't look like they've been through anything at all. Right next to, complete decimation. I mean, look at that. You have little shanties. Completely unaffected. You have some of these larger buildings completely unaffected, and it's right next to obviously completely decimated rubble. But look at some of these shanties. I mean, that roof doesn't even look scratched. Are those sandbags on top of the roof? Did those, if those are sandbags, did those sandbags hold down the roof? You can see two people walking on the street there. The street doesn't even, I mean, maybe they cleared the street. I don't know how far this is after. But if those are sandbags, I mean, it also looks like, look at that pane of glass there on this building. It looks like the top pane broke, but it looks like there's still glass there on the, if that's glass, there's two panes on the bottom that wasn't broken.
What's interesting about you is your logical analyses. Nobody does that, and it's based on like actual scientific debating rules and like tech. It's like taking a debate, a podcast debate, and using the rules of like the court of law or like scientific debates. Most people don't know about that. Like if you could come up with, if someone says something and then their opponent in the debate calls out a certain kind of fallacy. I didn't even know this shit. And it's I guess you have to go to college to know about these debates.
Well, what's funny? It's funny.
Explain that? Can you explain?
Yeah.
Like
So-
how to scientifically debate and what fallacies actually are and what.
But before I do that, I have to give you a little bit of credit. You could have fooled me because you rarely commit logical fallacies. Like even if you, like when you watch, like I did the nuclear bombs one and I did the flat earth one. You committed very few fallacies because, and you say you don't know any, like you're very humble, obviously. And you're like, well, I don't really know anything. I was just looking at this. You're naturally using critical thinking and deductive reasoning. And what's funny is when you go to actual indoctrination facilities, aka schools, they actually don't teach that. So the fact that you're not so-called, I call it edumacated to kind of poke fun at, obviously, Mark Twain said, don't let your schooling get in the way of your education. Education and schooling are two very different things. Education is actually learning. Schooling is jumping through hoops to get a treat like a dog, like a degree. Because if you don't jump through their hoops, you're not getting your degree. You're not getting your A+. So it's not really about education. It's about doing what they tell you to do. But the rules of debate, so there's formal and informal logic. I'm not going to bore everybody too much. But one of the reasons why I get so few trolls compared to other people when they break stuff down is because none of it is my opinion. You can empirically verify the definition of a fallacy. So, for example, false dichotomy is a huge one where you're saying, let's say flat earth is one of my favorite ones to cover because people use so many fallacies because they're so triggered. Like flat earth, Tartaria, like they use so many fallacies because for whatever reason, these two topics I've seen trigger people worse than any other topics. And so with a false dichotomy, like, or for example, nuclear bombs, like you've seen this so many times. Well, if there weren't any nukes, then what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? They were destroyed as if there's no other way to destroy buildings in a nuclear. So that's a false dichotomy. So these are objective, empirical argumentation. So the fallacy, and of course there's the fallacy. Just for example, if I say, well, 1 + 1 is 2, because pink unicorns invented math or whatever, like a false premise, something that's obviously fake. 1 + 1 is still 2, so I'm still correct. I just used the fallacy. So what I wanted to get out there, which nobody else does, is it's not about the conclusion, because even stupid people can be accidentally correct about things. What I wanted to bring back kind of was logical argumentation and logical reasoning. So did you get to your conclusion? Because you could also reach a wrong conclusion without using fallacies. So I just want people to actually think critically and use deductive reasoning and use logic to whatever because most people hold opinions that were not based on logic, and logical fallacies expose that. And the interesting thing is, it's not up for debate. Like the definition of the fallacy is the fallacy. So you can't really push back against it. So what's funny is when all these people get triggered and they say, oh, well, all you could do is talk about logical fallacies. And it's so funny because logical fallacies, logic itself is strict adherence to validity. So do you want to talk about something valid or do you want to just make up nonsense? And so the people that get triggered over fallacies, they don't want to have valid discussion, because they're just all in their feelings, because this is like the feels over reals generation. And so even like older people, like boomers, like on the moon landing, for example, someone watched it on TV and they thought it was real, So they're emotionally attached to it. So even if they're really smart in other things, they're going to commit fallacies. And that's another reason I have a huge logic and psychology playlist. So on the YouTube, it's at the Bruce Maguire. It used to be the Mindshock podcast, which got shut down. And another funny thing, I just recently got banned from the conspiracy subreddit where I've posted some of the I've posted occult NASA. I've posted everything on there, and they got triggered over evolution. Because I put up a debunking video on evolution, logically dismantling the fact that animals can magically turn into another species, even though nobody has yet to present any actual scientific evidence of that.
Yeah. So, in what arena and where do these debates take place? Where there's someone calling out fallacies and in discussions? Is it?
Oh, nowhere.
No.
So nowhere. So. So if you were in debate team or whatever in school, there wasn't even a huge focus on fallacies, but there was reasoned debate. So like you had to justify positions, and there is some of the fallacies taught depending on where you do it. Nobody really does it. I was going to start it on a Mindshock podcast, which we got shut down. YouTube shut that down as if maybe it was unrelated. Could all be coincidence, right? But I announced that I would be moderating them, so you wouldn't be allowed to use fallacies. And I only got two alleged PhDs. One of them supplied credentials, but someone, I forgot their name. I think it was Space Audits or one of the Flat Earth. We were going to do a Flat Earth debate, and you're not allowed to use fallacies in the debate. And you can imagine there was almost nobody willing to do that on the globe side.
Wow. You know what? Sam Tripoli and Sean Hibbler are producing a show. I don't know if you heard of it. The first show is going to be January 10th, and it's called Word War. It's a debate show, like an official debate show. And there's some money behind it, and they're going to it's going to be a big production, and they're going to get, big names to debate. And man, it almost seems necessary to have someone like a judge, where you can have your debate, but if any side calls out a fallacy, the judge then will either approve the fallacy and say that it's correct, or it's not a fallacy. They addressed it wrong or whatever. But if the judge says, yes, that's a fallacy, then whatever they just said gets stricken from the debate. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's what I was trying to do. There's a couple of challenges there. I hadn't heard of that, but now I'll definitely be checking that out. That's awesome. But what I was going to do, because there's a huge problem, because I had a lot of people that wanted to either debate me or whatever, but I don't claim, like the whole motto of the Mindshock podcast is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. I'm not claiming anything's true or untrue. And what I liked about you, even with Joe Rogan, when you were debating all that, you weren't even saying the earth is flat. You were just saying, this is weird, this is weird, this is weird. It's not a fallacy if you're just pointing out weird things, whereas Joe Rogan was making definitive statements in either circular reasoning fallacies, appeal to authority fallacies, appeal to popularity, all of that. And I just thought it was so interesting. Like, you could have fooled me that you hadn't done any kind of background on logic or anything, because you really committed very few. I mean, I didn't have the counter for that particular one. But I don't think I think you were probably in the single digits, and Joe Rogan was in the hundreds of fallacies in that one. It was wild. If you don't mind, though, people kept asking me to ask you, is Joe Rogan actually a flat earther? And he was just doing that as kind of to maintain plausible deniability, to not that he would get canceled, but he was trying to bring more attention to the topic, and he was just playing a role with that. People wanted me to ask you that.
Well, the answer to that is, if he didn't tell me. Yeah, and he might be like, hey, what a great way to get this information out. I'll just, commit all these obvious fallacies just to get it out. And my show won't take any heat from it because it's obvious that I'm against it. But we'll let Eddie talk. I don't know. It could be that.
Stem cells, they could do some wild shit down there.
I got the stem cells in my shoulder. My shoulder was jacked. I went down there, worked, man.
Eric Anders' neck was fucked up. And then he went down and got stem cell treatment. Now it doesn't bother him at all anymore.
I definitely recommend CPI. It's changed my life. The best stem cell clinic in the world.
I just come and I do stem cells to make sure that I'm resetting my body and staying healthy.
It regenerates tissue, reduces inflammation. The results are amazing.
CPI stem cells is where you want to go. There's no other place in town. They do the best work in the world. I feel incredible.
If there's anything causing you to not live the quality of life that you like, then this investment is more than worth it.
When it comes to the science of stem cells, no one comes close to CPI. There's not even a close second.
For a free doctor call to see if stem cells is the right option for you, visit us at cpistemcells.com.
But I actually doubt it. I think he really does believe we live on a spinning ball. I believe that. I mean, he wears NASA shirts and stuff on.
But with the NASA thing, what's really funny, because he was all about the moon hoax, and then all of a sudden, people don't know, like, when did the flip flop happen and why? Was it after his show, Joe Rogan questions everything, then he gets $100 million deal, then all of a sudden he starts peddling the mainstream narrative, but he never actually just, like, if you watch his old, because some of his old clips on that, they're really logical. Like, he's really breaking that down, and some of the old 9/11 stuff. And then it seems like he's walked a lot of that back. Like, he'll still make a comment here or there. Like, he'll say, oh, but the press conference was weird. And then he'll still make statements here and there. It's almost like it's all an act. I mean, I don't know, but I would think you would know because you know him so well.
I don't know. If, let's just say, if someone talked to him or whatever, he wouldn't tell me. Like, if someone talked to me, I wouldn't tell anybody. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But he is back on the moon, though. He is back on the moon landings were fake. So I'm not too sure but he is back on the moon for sure. He's saying that
that's interesting.
But he did go back and forth on it, and that was a lot of people have questions about that. But
have you seen my moon series?
I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of your videos, but I don't know if.
Yeah, one of my favorite. Yeah, so with the moon landing, I broke down a lot. So basically, I mean, the videos are obviously fake. I mean, that doesn't mean they didn't go to the moon, though. That'd be a false dichotomy, right? Because they could have still went, but not filmed it.
That's what Alex Jones believes. Alex Jones believes, yeah, it was all faked. All the footage is faked and all that, but they did go in a secret space program. And I'm like, the reason people think we went to the moon is because of the evidence that's presented, the video and all that.
Yeah.
So that's fake. So we prove that's fake. So if that's fake, then you're saying there was a space program where there's zero video, zero evidence, and you're saying that's real? That's real. There's no evidence. So I don't know. It could be true. Maybe there is a secret moon.
My guess.
I'm gonna go with. You guys fucking lied and you faked it. You probably didn't go. And like, how could you go to the moon when? I mean, if you look at the moon at night and it's fucking shining. Sometimes it shines so bright it goes and there's clouds in front of it. You could see the beam going through the cloud. You're trying to tell me the sun? That's the sun reflecting off the moon? No, the moon is giving off its own light. If the moonlight was actually sunlight, we would have all sorts of shadows on the moon every night. As soon as the sun goes down, the moon, dude, there'd be all sorts of weird shadows on the moon. And it's fucking bright. A full moon is pretty damn bright. And I don't know what that, there's a scientific term for it, some kind of light phenomenon. But like if you were standing on a football field in one end zone, and on the other end zone there was like a Jeep with high beams. You could look at the high beams from like 100 yards away, and it won't hurt your eyes. But the closer you walk,
the inverse square law of light,
square law of light. It would be so bright. Imagine how bright the moon would be if you could land on it.
It would be bright. It's funny. That was one of my main points, not just because of that. But because when you're filming it, because they claimed they should have claimed that they made special cameras with special film, right? Yeah. Because then they could play some games there. But they have the exact model number, and I went through all that. The exposure setting doesn't exist in order to see all of, the lander and everything and the surface of the moon at the same time, because the brightness differential, I mean, anybody can do this with your cell phone, whatever, puts an object next to an extremely bright light. And would you actually see the object next to it? Because that light is so bright. If you turn the exposure down so exponentially, then you would to see only the other object, then you don't see the light at all and you can't see anything. And I encourage everybody to do that and to just play with exposure settings, because the exposure settings are a dead giveaway. But another one is, I did a whole episode on how they supposedly transmitted a live color video feed in 1969, and I broke down the exact equipment used. Nobody talks about this. They had a tiny little antenna. Think about this. When you see a news crew, like in 2025, there's a news crew filming a news story at the edge of on the street. They have a giant news van with like countless meters of cables. They have this satellite dish that only has to go a few blocks downtown to their station to transmit. And look at the amount of cables they have. And that, we're talking like a mile. Now imagine the amount of cables and the size of the transmitter you would need from the moon and to transmit a color signal. They claimed they did 3 transmissions for the color signal, needed 3. And they claimed all 3 simultaneously with no glitches, with almost no delay, went from the moon to, check out that episode. It's wild. And then one of the other ones I like to talk about is electromagnetic frequency. So artificial lights give off a different digital signature than the sun, like a natural light. And I actually did a comparison where, from, let's say, the NASA museum indoors with studio lights, the digital signature is the same of the indoor, because every light has a different signature, like a halogen or a tungsten light. They're all different. And so when you look at natural light versus artificial light, there's a huge difference. And yeah, people could check that out. Like, it's weird. I think that Fox special was the moon landing faked. It was almost like they were using some of the silliest so-called proofs, because we don't really know. Like, let's say if you go to the moon, because of the atmosphere differential or whatever, lately they've a few years ago, they actually say the moon is actually inside the Earth's atmosphere now. They switch it up. Yeah. And everybody just believes it. But anyway, you don't really, I don't know how people can claim to know how light would behave in that situation. So we don't really know. So I don't even really, I went over the shadows a little bit, because theoretically, what if they brought extra lights on the moon? They should have claimed that, right? They should have claimed that to get better film footage, we brought some extra lights, because then that would avoid that. It's like they did it on purpose. That's one of my theories, is some of these conspiracies are so obvious. That's like a serial killer calling the police station and saying, "I did it. Haha, you can't catch me," right? Because some of it's so obvious.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson was on Theo Von, and the episode just came out today, and it's really good. And they talk about deception, and they brought up the moon landing. And Tucker said something like, "Yeah, then I'm talking to these guys that I'm questioning the moon landing, and they're saying, welcome aboard, Grandpa. We knew that 30 years ago." And Tucker was going, "Damn, I just found it out, and now I'm way behind." And then Theo Von goes, "Yeah, that was pretty damn obvious. Who actually thinks we went to the moon?" They talked about it just really quick, but casually they just dismissed it, and that's mainstream now. And
that's really funny.
Yeah, did you see Bart Sibrel versus having a debate with that one astronaut?
I caught a little bit of it, and not enough. I need to go do a logical analysis on that.
6 times we landed on the moon.
You lied to the American public 6 times, which shows the arrogance of the American. Well, then
you don't
I guess
believe,
this guy
you don't
is
believe we landed on the moon.
You didn't know that before you got here.
No,
yeah, no. His life's
so
work.
how did we get 600 pounds of moon rocks?
Well, like I said,
let's talk about the moon rock. Okay, let's put a pin there. Now let's talk about the moon rocks. Okay, what evidence do you have? I know you have some that proves that the moon rocks were not actually moon rocks, right?
Yeah, if you could let me find the clip here.
Bar's
or you could
position
look it
is-
up.
Bar's position is the moon rocks aren't
Netherlands
real.
fake moon rock.
But just real quick before I forget, I wanted to possibly give you a reason why Alex Jones believed they went.
Okay.
And it'll take like 2 minutes for me to explain this. I did want to go into like a brief history of conspiracy OGs.
Okay.
So, and I wanted your opinion because and people have been constantly asking me about this, like who's a shill this, who's a shill that. I don't know any of these people, and I think Alex Jones is the greatest thespian in modern history. I mean, who's a more entertaining actor that can pull off the diversity of characters, voices, accents? Like, he is the most entertaining actor I've ever seen, or like just his ability is just so incredible at everything. And I even did an episode on whether or not he's Bill Hicks. Did you have an opinion on that or no?
He's not Bill Hicks. I know that's 100%. He's not Bill Hicks.
How do you know that for 100%?
That's 1,000,000%. I know his family. I know his son. I've seen pictures of him when he was in high school, yoked, and he used to be a yoked athlete. Bill Hicks was never an athlete. They look.
Yeah, I went over some of that too. Yeah, Alex Jones was crazy, Jack.
They look similar, and they're from the same area, but 1,000,000%. That's ridiculous. No.
One of the theories is that there's some kind of MK Ultra celebrity cloning program, and they use some of the same base DNA for both of them.
I mean, anything's possible.
So
who knows how deep they're getting with clones? Who knows?
So,
I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So a lot of people think, and Alex Jones was one of my first introductions to some of the conspiracy, because I remember him from back in the 90s when he wasn't as popular. Like, obviously now everybody knows him. Back in the 90s, not everybody knew Alex Jones in the late 90s, but before him was Bill Cooper. I've heard you talk about him.
Yeah.
And I wanted your opinion on this too. Why do you think Bill Cooper said Alex Jones was like a CIA show?
I don't know. I know Alex Jones very well. If he's a CIA plant, he got me fooled. I know him well, very well. Like, I don't think he is, just like people think Joe Rogan's a shill. I don't think he is. Again, who knows? Maybe, if they are, why would they tell me? So how would I know? But I just know them personally. I've known Joe for 30 years. I don't think they're, CIA plan. I mean, Joe is, he has like a whole security SEAL Team 6 type thing. Like he's a little concerned about getting, Charlie Kirk. He's concerned about that. If he was a shill, he wouldn't be concerned about that.
So one of the theories I go over is I go deep into MK Ultra and even Tavistock. And let me drop this. Is this completely uncensored?
Completely.
So have you seen, I just went over it briefly because this was YouTube. I didn't want to go too crazy on my YouTube. The Hitler conspiracy where he is a British operative, and there is so much evidence for it. I actually dropped a little bit of it on one live stream because I didn't want to drop too much. And so there's even an old photo. Now, maybe it's fake, but this photo has been around since the 90s. Like, it's not new. And it's of Bush Sr. with Mengele and some of Hitler's right-hand men in like an old family photo. And then the Bushes, they actually changed their name, moved to America, etc. But the connections between Hitler's banker was the Duchess of Tavistock's grandfather. And I put up photos of all of this. Like, this is all receipts up the wazoo. And he's even photographed many times with a known British agent. And Dunkirk is one of the major evidences for this, because this is like the only time the Germans withdrew from battle and allowed the British retreat. They would have won that. And that could have potentially turned the tide of the war. And so one of the conspiracies is that Hitler was having his strings pulled, and Hitler's, was it his sister-in-law? There's a diary where he went to visit his brother in London, and this is all documented. And so they were saying Hitler was MK Ultra. And there's another photo of Hitler as like a 12-year-old when he visited. I don't know if it was with his uncle. Like there was somebody in the family that took him on a trip to Britain. And there's two more pieces. He was, I think you might, one of these is famous. In World War I, Hitler was just randomly let go as a POW. Like they just let him go. And there's a second incident where he was captured and just let go, whereas the other Germans were killed. So people are saying these are just really odd instances regarding Hitler and all of that. So with so Tavistock was actually the precursor to MK Ultra. So they were doing all these mind control experiments, you know, almost 100 years before MK Ultra. So one of the theories is that people like Alex Jones or Joe Rogan, they're not knowing shills. They were programmed without their knowledge. Either there's a million ways to do it. You don't actually have to kidnap somebody and put them in a warehouse like they have all the frequency technologies now, like with Wi-Fi and all that. But in the past, they had them with like radio waves. So one of the theories is that a lot of these people, even Trump or whoever, it's like an unknowing shill is a lot more valuable than a knowing shill, because a knowing shill can get drunk at a bar and tell everybody what's going on. But an unknowing shill, if they don't know they were programmed MK Ultra, Tavistock, whatever, there's nothing for them to spill because they're not even aware of it.
Yeah, I talk about that sometimes. Controlled opposition that knows they're controlled opposition versus controlled opposition that doesn't know they're controlled opposition. And I believe, you know, like news, like, you know, news anchors, like,
oh yeah, for sure.
The most part,
yeah,
it would be more powerful for the controllers to have them think that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
as opposed to, you know, deceiving the world. They might, you know, they have people are, you know, they're, you know, deep down, everyone has a heart, so they could crack, you know, and turn against you. But if you get them thinking they're doing the right thing, then that's more powerful, because then they believe it and they're more passionate about it. I think like Tucker Carlson, for instance. I don't know him, never talked to him, don't know him personally, but what I think happened to him, I think he was controlled opposition, but didn't know he was controlled opposition. In my opinion, you know, the media is just run by whoever's running NBC, ABC, CNN, whoever's running all that, the liberal media. They needed like an opposite. They needed Fox News, so they created Fox News just to have at least one station that's the opposing voice. And but still, it's still. This is just me guessing. Still, Fox is still part of the liberal media.
Oh, yeah.
But they needed to have an opposing, you know, voice to legitimize it. So then they get the most powerful way is get these newscasters, Tucker Carlson, all these guys at Gutfield or who, you know, that what's her name, Lauren, whatever, the blonde chick, and then get them, you know, okay, your job is to always promote the Republicans. You're on the conservative side. And meanwhile, both sides, conservatives and liberals, they're controlled by the same controllers.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
There needs to be an appearance of a battle. And then what happened is like Trump comes in and he's not really playing ball traditionally. So he kind of fucked things up. So now, you know, the Fox, the newscasters, the anchors are their job is to promote whoever is running, you know, on the Republican ticket. So now we got Trump, you know, who was always a liberal, and now he's running as a conservative. So now they're forced to back up Trump. For all your 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu merchandise, please visit 10thplanetjj.com/shop. We also got a Look Into It t-shirt that just dropped. Thank you very much for your support. And maybe the people at the top of Fox are going, fuck, now this could be a problem. Because our guys are supposed, you know, we instructed everyone to always push the Republican side. And now Trump's running as a Republican. So I think after over time, they couldn't keep it together. And then Tucker just, you know, they had to get rid of him because, you know, he was controlled opposition that didn't know he was controlled opposition. Because the shit he's saying now, he's just talking common sense now. He's got his own podcast, and listen to his podcast with Theo. I mean, he doesn't sound like he's a bad guy. He sounds like he's a good guy.
What are your thoughts on his red Kabbalah bracelet and some of these so-called, these guys in a similar camp to him? When you start looking at some of the videos and like they're always wearing a red Kabbalah bracelet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would like to know what that's about. I really don't know anything about that bracelet. Maybe it's CGI, maybe it's not real, or maybe it is real and it means something different to him. Maybe they're all in on it. Maybe everyone's a fucking part of this demonic thing.
But see, that's what makes you so logical, though. You're not married to a conclusion because if there's not enough evidence, because I'm with you, man. Like, how would we know? I think it's very intelligent to say, well, how would you know for sure? You don't have access to all these people and all the classified files. That's why I think it's so funny. The coincidence theorists, the authority worshiping cultists, those that just believe everything they see on TV or on the media, they immediately want to jump to a conclusion. And it's the more intelligent position to say, I don't know. There's not enough information here to make a determination, right? Because maybe he wears the red Kabbalah bracelet as a joke and he thinks it's funny when people point that out. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe, I was all for Trump. I didn't follow daily politics for the longest time because I was like, okay, the Bushes are obviously demons and they're Republicans. And then Clinton is a fucking demon and he's Democrat. So, that saying two wings from the same bird or whatever, that made sense to me. So I'm like, okay, it's all bullshit. Republicans and liberals, they're all part of the same team and it's just a show. So I never really paid attention to politics. I was just really deep into, like in the 2000s, the 2010, I was like, it's all bullshit. But I was fascinated with the history of the Clintons, the history of the Bushes, 9/11, and all the evidence.
Have you heard the Bush story that I just said, that they were Germans?
Yes, I heard that, and I know George Sr.'s dad, Prescott Bush, he got busted for financing the Nazis through Union Bank. That's documented. So, when it comes to Hitler. Shit, I don't know what the fuck to believe with Hitler because there's some people that think, oh, he was doing the right thing, and they're translating his speeches, and he's like saying like good shit, just like Trump was saying good shit. And then what's Trump doing now? But I don't know. Is Trump playing 5D chess? I don't know. I don't know what's going on because everyone's turning on Trump.
Before we get to Trump, I don't talk about Hitler too much on YouTube because it's YouTube, but it's really fascinating that some random painter and then a World War I soldier is just somehow this incredible orator and who can give these incredible speeches. Do you think it's possible someone can naturally just have that kind of speech delivery ability? I mean, it's curious, right?
Yeah, like with the whole, because there's people now that think, oh, he was a hero. There's people that like Hitler. And then there's obviously the people that think he's, Satan, Antichrist. And then, I don't fucking know. The more I look at the British agent theory, it almost seems like he was possibly psyoped and picked for that position and then used almost like a useful idiot. And it's possible he was genuinely passionate about, because I think Tartaria is the missing piece. But before we get there, because I'll circle back to that, I did want to finish my OG conspiracy point, which is before Bill Cooper, there was actually so Bill Cooper and John Lear, of course. John Lear. Yeah.
I was actually around back in the old BBS bulletin board internet days where they posted all this stuff about UFOs and all that. Bill Cooper actually had a UFO sighting. That's how he got on John Lear's radar. Yeah. And then everything went from there. And this is actually going to tie into the Alex Jones point on maybe why he thinks they went to the moon. But before Bill Cooper and John Lear, there was a Canadian conspiracy theorist called Serge Monast. Have you heard of him?
Never.
And so he is so fascinating because we're talking before all these guys, like early 80s, he was already putting out books warning about the trans agenda. He was putting out, he's the originator of Project Bluebeam. It was not Bill Cooper. Serge Monast is the OG. Nobody knows who he is. They arrested him. He spent one night in jail, I think in his 50s, and then he died the next day. Nobody knows why.
Oh my God. What country did he live in?
Canada.
Man, you got to send me some links.
I did a whole show. I did a whole show on him. I did a clip. Yeah, I'll email you a bunch. Serge Monast is the original OG nobody talks about. I was fascinated. How did he get this information? And some people were actually connecting him to some kind of Freemason whistleblower in France. And I was in the middle of like tracing some of these old French manuscripts where some of the so-called New World Order plan was laid out. And somehow he got privy to those. And then he started warning people. And a lot of what Bill Cooper says is lifted straight from Serge Monast. I'm not sure. I'm guessing he read Serge Monast's books because Serge Monast wasn't underground. Like he went on talk shows and stuff too. Kind of like David Icke back in the day.
There was a woman. The only conspiracy theorist I know that's older than Bill Cooper was a woman with, I forget her name, but there was her name starts with an M. You know what I'm talking about? She had a radio show, and she's talking about.
I covered. Oh, totally. I actually did an episode on. Her name just totally slipped my mind too. Yeah.
He's talking about like RFK's assassination and
she
Charles,
talked.
Charles Manson.
She talked. She was one of the only ones that was actually covering the Falkland Islands situation.
Interesting. I remember the Falkland Islands. I remember when that was going on. I was in sixth grade. I think that was 81, 82. But I don't know shit about like the conspiracy end of it. I'm sure there was some like
May Brussel. It's May Brussel.
That's
May
it.
Brussel.
I knew it started with an M. I knew it.
Yeah. She's definitely one of the OGs. I never really. So I have to go. One of the managers of her archive actually reached out to me as well because I was covering some stuff. And they reached out and gave me some info. Yeah, she had a lot of info, but Serge Monast was, I'm trying to remember, I think he was probably before her too. And he was so radical because who was talking about the trans agenda in the early 80s?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think the reason, so Alex Jones has obviously seen some stuff. He's obviously got some connections, people in the CIA, all these people that have sent him stuff. Because he's always talking about having the documents, right? Yeah. So there were a lot of documents that Bill Cooper, John Lear, they were talking about on these BBS boards, even way back in the day, about the secret space program. Alex Jones has probably seen so many of those because according to some of those documents, they actually have bases on Mars. And I even did a whole episode on did Nazi Germany make it to the moon before the Americans? Now, they definitely tried, and I think it gets really dicey where if we're going to move out of the physical realm, is it possible, like with Stargates and all of that, is it like, could you go somewhere kind of like, let's say Mars? I don't know if you've seen the flat Earth map where the plane is so large, there's other domes, other like holographic suns over other domes across the plane. And if one of them is Mars... if one of them is Mars, it could be reflecting on the dome. So when we're looking at Mars, what we're looking at when we look up, it's a holographic reflection of some kind from our own plane. Again, just a theory. I'm not claiming it's true. So is it possible to actually go to Mars? You're not going up to the light in the sky. You're going to another realm on the plane. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's a possibility for sure. Like,
and there's some leaked footage. There's some so-called leaked footage of even a trip to Mars that allegedly happened. The Vatican, so this is on record, the Vatican actually financed a Mars moon mission, a manned Mars moon. Now, according to the official narrative, it never happened, but they financed it, which I thought was interesting, and they co-financed it with, I think, Brazil. It was like some of these countries that supposedly aren't doing a lot in space. And this was way back. This is before NASA ever allegedly landed on the moon. It's just really fast. I did a whole episode on this. There's a guy. This is one of the smartest guys I've ever seen. I can't believe I just forgot his name, but I actually went through, he's got all his video presentations. I probably went through 70 hours of this guy's presentation. If he's faking it, he's got the best poker face I've ever seen. This guy translated all the German documents on their rockets and UFOs and everything. He's a Bulgarian, German, and maybe Russian. I don't remember. And he was actually a professor at a university in the United States. Can you believe that? Like, he was actually teaching, I don't remember if it was like Tennessee or Maryland, somewhere out there. And he actually had a ufology class at an actual university in the US. And he was traveling with all his videotapes and all his stuff. And then he disappeared one day. And so if he's faking it, I've never seen anybody who can pull off a 6-hour lecture on the actual mechanics of a UFO and like a base on the moon or whatever. Like, he's got all the math, he's got all the schematics, and he's saying it with a straight face for 6 hours straight. So it was just fascinating to watch.
You brought up John Lear. To me, I think John Lear is almost 100% a psyop. Like, John Lear, what he says, like, oh, there's millions of people living on Venus, and I like the stuff he says is just so obviously, to me, just.
Well, I think so. He's a wild card. I did 2 episodes on him. He is so interesting, and I think he passed a few years ago, but he's so interesting because this is a super rich guy, and I don't know if you're familiar with his flight background. He's flown, I think, 150 different type of aircraft, almost 20,000 miles of logged hours in all these planes. He's gotten every single award the FAA ever put out. He's broken all of these flying records. I mean, he might be the greatest pilot ever, maybe. And so one of the things that got me onto the thinking about the hologram theory for 9/11 was because he said, like, he claimed to have flown top secret aircraft as well. He said there's nothing that could make a near 90-degree turn at 650 miles an hour, let alone like a passenger aircraft. He said there's no military craft that can perform that maneuver. And so I don't know if you were familiar with it.
What was the maneuver? Didn't the planes supposedly just fly straight into?
The second one banked. If you watch it in super slow motion, the second one actually banked into the building. And people were actually, there was a famous, I don't know if it was loose change. Someone actually called up Boeing and asked them if they could, if their aircraft could perform, like if a 757 or whatever can perform, it wasn't a 90-degree turn, but it was a pretty sharp turn at allegedly 650 miles an hour or something like that. And they were like, they can't do anything near that. And there's even videos of them testing the aircraft from the 80s. They break up in the air at way less speed and way less of a degree turn. They're not physically capable of making those turns. And John Lear brought that up first. So anyway, with John Lear, I think he's seen so much stuff. I don't know if I think he might be in his own mind telling the truth. Like him and Bob Lazar. So, they were friends, right?
Yeah, that's another gigantic red flag.
Well, I'm not sure because John Lear was really big back in the day. Late 80s, early 90s. Like, he put out UFO magazines. He was so dialed in to UFO culture. Bob Lazar would have definitely talked to him no matter what. So I'm not sure who reached out to who. But the fact that they were in touch isn't really surprising, right? Because if my theory on Lazar, and I did a whole podcast on him too. I don't know if you're aware, but his first wife died and was connected to Hell's Angels and all this weird stuff.
No, I didn't know that.
If you check out my episode on Bob Lazar, so everybody says, okay, Bob Lazar passed all these polys, he's credible. And my whole he told one story, and I put it on the podcast, where he said he was being followed on the highway and men with guns shot at him in his car on the highway and tried to run him off the road. To me, that's, again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Some people say he's telling the truth about everything. Do you think that's true that the men in black or whoever would open fire on a busy highway? Why would he say that? I don't know. That's one of my red flag stories for Bob Lazar. But regarding Lazar, I think that the U.S. government wanted to test a leak. I think they wanted him to go public, and they wanted to see what would happen if he did.
Absolutely. That's what Bill Cooper said happened to him, too, is they find alcoholics that have big mouths. They might have a radio show, and they invite them to some top secret facility, and they accidentally see some UFO technology, and they want them to talk. Like, they wanted Bob Lazar to talk.
Yeah.
Because, like, Bob Lazar, that would make him controlled opposition that didn't know he was controlled opposition.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's thinking like, oh, shit, I got to tell people. Meanwhile, that's exactly what they want him to do. And that's what Bill Cooper said. Bill Cooper said he was like, in these top secret meetings with naval intelligence. And he was like the guy who's handling all the documents. And he would look at these documents and they had a lot of UFO stuff in them. So he thought like, oh shit, UFOs are real. But then he realized later that that's what they wanted him. They wanted him to look at those documents, read that there was UFO stuff in there, and then talk about it.
So, but do you know about Bill Cooper's original UFO sighting that got him in touch with John Lear for the very first time in the 80s?
No, tell me about it.
So, yeah, I covered this. So Bill Cooper is a naval officer, or I don't know his rank. He's in the Navy. And on the ship one day, he actually sees a UFO, or a USO rather. It came from the water. And it was like the size of a football field. And he posted that without his name, obviously. He posted that on John Lear's UFO BBS board. I forgot the exact year. It was the late 80s. Late 80s. And he said the event took place however many years prior to that. It was probably a number of years prior. And then they got connected through there. So I don't know if it... So, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that all of these, the UFO that Bill Cooper saw was just U.S. military? Was it Tartarians? Like, what's going on?
My guess is if John Lear is involved with Bill Cooper and John Lear is involved with Bob Lazar, I think Bob Lazar and Bill Cooper were set up, and then John Lear is in there to manage them. That's what I would guess. Because like, when I hear John Lear talk, I'm like, that guy's full of shit. And it's especially, and coming from me, I don't believe in, mainstream UFOs. I don't believe in that shit. I believe in Project Bluebeam. I believe they're pushing UFOs. It's so obvious with this Atlas thing. Like, get the fuck out of here with that Atlas shit. You know what I mean? It's so obvious that I mean, it's a fact that the people that are ruling this realm that we're in, they've always wanted a one world government. That's been the goal forever. And it's so obvious that the quickest way to usher in the new world is with an alien invasion. And in this case, a fake alien invasion. So it's pretty fucking obvious. They don't censor shit about UFOs. You could be a whistleblower.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Remember that guy, Philip Corso? They let that guy talk.
Yeah.
He wrote books on shit he's seen, in top secret military bases with aliens and shit. They let him talk as much as he wanted. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, okay, so I always find it, like, I always want to go into people's history because I think it's fascinating. Like, Bob Lazar is not a random guy. This is a guy that had like a rocket bicycle. Like, it's really interesting. And he also had some kind of bicycle. Yeah. Have you seen the photo? It was in a newspaper.
No, the only thing I remember from Bob Lazar, he had like a Camaro that had a rocket engine or something.
Yeah. He started with a bicycle, like when he was a kid, when he was a teenager.
Yeah. Okay. So he was really good with propulsion systems.
But it's just his background is really weird. He was also involved with his first wife was a lot older than him, who may have been a druggie. I went through all of this history. She was in prison. Some people think people might have got to her in prison, and then she was Lazar's handler, and she primed him for some of these contracts. She ends up dying under mysterious circumstances, and then Bob Lazar later ends up working somehow at Los Alamos, and then eventually at S4 or whatever next to Area 51. I just, like, to me, it's weird what are the chances that his first wife is involved with Hell's Angels murders and all of this stuff? And then like it's weird to me. Same thing with John Lear. Like John Lear, if you're gonna pick a guy who's gonna be like a controlled op or whatever, like this is, you think maybe they had something on him? Because if he's that integrated, like if you're the best at something, he's the best pilot in the world. The CIA wants him for missions, and who knows what the details of those missions are, right? We don't know any of that stuff. Perhaps either, are you saying, like, what's the, like, again, I don't, appeal to motive is a fallacy. So I'm not saying he's not a shill in any way. I'm just kind of, because I was a big John Lear fan back in the day. I thought it was interesting that he wasn't afraid to say, oh, there's dream factories on Mars and the moon is like a soul harvesting machine. Yeah. And like, where does he get this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? What if he's right? It's so ridiculous to me. It's so ridiculous to me, but like anything's possible. Because I mean, it's like we know, you know, most people believe that there's an afterlife, and that afterlife is probably where we came from before we were born. That's not too crazy. You know, people believe that there's an afterlife. I believe there's an afterlife. I believe there's other dimensions. I've seen them while I was on DMT. That wasn't in my mind. I didn't make that shit up. I saw it. And when you do 5 grams of mushrooms, you see the other dimension. So we know that this reality that we're in right now is not permanent. It's temporary, very temporary. It goes by quick. So what we're living in now can't be reality. It can't be, because it's going to end. This can't be reality. This is like a temporary game, temporary learning facility or something, but it's not forever. We know that for sure. So it can't be like what's real. It can't be like that infinite thing. And maybe wherever we go when we dream, maybe when we dream, maybe that's reality.
I talk about that all the time on some of my lives. I actually, you know what really creeped me out as a child? Merrily, 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 like row your boat, merrily, merrily, merrily down the stream. Life is but a dream. And that really freaked me out when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Because that's the first time I thought, wait a second, if life is the dream, does that mean when you dream, that's real life? And that freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah, well, for me, when I dream, I don't remember who I am. It's stressful. Most of my dreams are like, man, I just lost my job. And when you can't remember anything, you can't remember, like, where do I work? The first thing that comes to my head is, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay my bills? Where do I live? And then you hear these mystics from time to time, you know, talking about like what the meaning of life. And every now and then some mystic will say, you know, once you remember who you are, that's when you evolve into, like, you know, the spiritual consciousness that you're supposed to be in, but you have to remember who you are. And I'm thinking, in this reality, this waking reality that we're in right now, if this isn't real, it is kind of weird that there's no way, like, how are you going to remember who you are in this reality?
What I think is probably the best meat slice in the game, it's called a row drag. Super simple, awesome combo. Before we get to the truck, throw a little pass on top of that. You know what I mean? So we're gonna get really good at that truck transition. How about you get really ninja with the row drag? The meat slice. Push him down, butterfly, boom, bam, boom. Here. 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 And then the fishnet, knee to the stomach, low the handle, break the frames, and then boom. Pull this out, grab my forearm, pop, pop. That's all the best shit from Twister Side Control right there in one flow. You guys want to go back and forth a little bit? Ready? Let's go.
But in your dreams, when you remember who you are and you know that you're dreaming, all of a sudden the dream is clear. It goes from fuzzy. I don't know if you had lucid dreams before, but I had them. I just had one last week. They're insane. Once you realize, as a kid, I used to do it all the time. I used to realize I was dreaming. And once you realize that you're dreaming, the dream becomes, to me, clear, bright. And I'm just going, oh my God, I can't believe this is a dream. oh my God, I can't believe this. And this is so crazy. And, you know, I used to, you know, there's techniques you could use to make lucid dreams happen more often because they don't happen that often. But if you do these techniques, add DVDs and you sleep with the DVDs and you have these mental exercises that you go through, and it's worked a few times, but it's hard to do because you're doing these mental exercises when you're trying to go to sleep. And you're like, I'm lazy. I just want to sleep. I don't want to do these mental exercises. So it's tough to do all the time. I'm just too lazy. But I did them for a while and it does work. And maybe when you dream, maybe that's where we go. Maybe that's where we came from. And we're there every night, but we just don't know where we're at. But as soon as you realize who you are, the dream becomes clear. And the two things that everyone does when they figure out that they're dreaming is they fly, immediately they fly, and then they have intercourse. That's the two things that everyone has once they master lucid dreaming. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people like try to master the lucid, because they want to fly and they want to fuck like for eternity.
That's really fascinating. I've never heard anybody break it down quite like that. And I've studied every single mystic system I could find. That's really interesting. I haven't had a lucid dream in quite a long time, but I do remember the last time I did, I just wanted to fly around.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I had a lucid. Usually, when a lucid dream would happen, I would fly. Like I had one like maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little longer. This is when I had the DVDs and I'd sleep with the DVDs and like when you sleep with this DVD and every time like the sound of rain would swell in. Like if it's rain, it would sound like it was raining outside. So I didn't want to. You associate certain thoughts, whatever thoughts you want, with the rain, with the subtle sound that's not going to startle you. It's not going to wake you up. So it's like rain won't really wake you up. You could kind of flow with it. So you're lying in bed until you fall asleep. Rain will swell in, and every time rain swells in, you concentrate on where you want, what you want in your dream. You have images of what you want, you know, and you know, back then, you know, you'd concentrate on being, like anytime I heard I'm laying in my bed and anytime you'd hear the rain swell in, I would think of being on like, you know, some island on a beach with a beautiful woman, you know, and then the rain would go away. And then like, you know, 15 minutes later, the rain would come back and then you think about it again. So you'd keep doing it until you fell asleep. And then once you fall asleep and then the rain would swell in again, then you would go automatically to that spot that you would think about when you would hear the rain. That's how it worked. And it worked twice for me. And then I got too lazy to do it. But every time I would have a lucid dream, as soon as I'd figure it out, it would last like 10 seconds and then I would wake up. And one of them was, I'll never forget. Usually, you know, if you're not having lucid dreams, you forget about your dreams. You barely can remember your dreams. And people always say, write down your dreams, right? Because you'll forget if you don't write them down right away. You forget what you dream about. But when you have lucid dreams, you don't forget about those. And this one lucid dream I had at work, that the rain thing worked, and all of a sudden it's bright. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dreaming, and it's so clear. It's so bright. I can't believe this is a dream. It's so clear. Oh my God. And I go, oh, I'm a fly. So immediately I'm flying like a superhero through a canyon, and it's bright. It's like the sun's out and it's shining, and I'm flying through a canyon, and it's like it's all like yellow orangish canyon, and I'm like a rocket flying through this canyon. And then I go, okay, it's time to have sex. So then all of a sudden I land on this trail on the side of the canyon, and out of nowhere, some beautiful woman dressed in hiking boots and shorts, she just appears out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my God. And as soon as I went to hug her, I woke up. I'm like, oh my God, that was so real. And but the lucid dream I had last week, that thing lasted for like half an hour. It was so weird, but I couldn't fly. I knew I was dreaming, and I was trying to fly. I go, why can't I fly? And I was kind of like flying for 5 feet, and then I just couldn't take off. And I did not have intercourse. But the one thing that I did, like, I was just tripping out on how real everything was. And I would like walk through malls, and I'm walking through like the city. And the one thing, even though I didn't have intercourse, beautiful females all over the place were like staring at me. And they were like, it was weird. It was crazy. And I was still trying to fly. And everywhere I looked, there was like this beautiful woman who was trying to get my attention. It was crazy. And then I finally woke up like, whoa, I haven't had one of those in a long time. But who knows? Maybe when all these mystics say you have to, once you remember who you are, then that's when, you know, your life comes together. Maybe dreams are, when we dream, that's where we came from, and that's where we're going after we die. Maybe it is, because whatever heaven is, it definitely isn't like what we're experiencing now. No way. It's got to be like that dream state where there's like no time and you can manifest anything you want. You can do you like master your own like video game that has no time. You know what I mean? Heaven has to be more. Heaven, definitely, in my opinion, is a lot more like dreams than it is like this reality, in my opinion.
Yeah. So have you had any dreams where, I think time perception in dreams is interesting. I've had dreams where I went 2 weeks in one night. So they weren't lucid, but I would just be living life. You know, you go to sleep, you wake up, you go through your day, like you're walking to the groceries, like every mundane detail of your regular life. So I did not know I was dreaming. And 2 weeks went by in the dream, and then I wake up and it was only one night. And it was just weird because I have the memory of literally 2 weeks of days. I mean, it's mostly just mundane stuff, but 2 weeks of memories.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? You know, life is probably like a movie where you go to a movie, you don't want to know the ending. If you went to a movie with a buddy who already seen that movie and he tells you what's going on and what's going to happen, you'll punch him in the face. But if you think about it, like, why wouldn't you want to know what happens in the movie before you watch the movie? Like you would think you'd want to know, like it would be smarter to know, but in reality, it's not. It's the opposite. You don't want to know. You want to experience it without knowing the ending. Maybe that's what life is. Maybe that's why we don't know what's going on, because we didn't want to. Like, we wanted to come into this reality, whatever it is. And obviously, once you understand what's really going on, when you do come back in this reality that we're in, you don't want to know, because if you know it, it ruins everything.
Well, I think this is a perfect segue to Tartaria. I think Tartaria is, so I've just started a new series, The Real History of the World. I've been just looking at all the available information from everything.
Yeah.
And because you can't burn all the books, you can't burn every single one, like in the past hundreds of years. And there are some that remain that are so interesting. For example, there were some like Russian history books where they talk about like 2 great Siberian wars. And then some of these maps that have all of these cities in Siberia, and then some paintings of people wearing really light clothing as if the climate was completely different there, possibly only 100, 200, 300 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you looked into the little season theory?
Yeah. I've been spending quite a bit of time on that as well.
Yeah, I'm all in on that. I mean, because the little season theory basically saying that Jesus came back then. He never said he was coming back in 2,000 years. He came back like within the apostles' lifetime, and then for 1,000 years that him and his apostles ruled the world, like you know, built all these divine structures and cathedrals and these structures that are all over the world that have no explanation. You're like, you built this cathedral in the 1800s before power tools? It doesn't make any sense. So that Jesus did come back and rule for 1,000 years, and then after the 1,000 years, he let Satan out, and then like he let Satan rule for whatever reason, and that's what we're in right now. We're in the little season where it does feel like Satan's running the world. It feels like we're in an evil realm right now, right? It doesn't feel like, I mean, there's a lot of good in this world, but the powers that are actually ruling the nations, to me, they seem satanic. It's the little season theory, which is in Revelations. Revelations talk, some people don't believe in Revelations or whatever, but Who knows?
Yeah, I actually have you heard of Larkin Rose?
No.
Oh, you should definitely check out Larkin Rose. So Larkin Rose, so he actually famously did a really illogical breakdown on flat Earth. But other than flat Earth, this guy is one of the smartest guys ever. So he was one of my introductions into statism. So statism is the belief in governments that people have the right to rule other people. And so, by the way, statism, Satanism, the whole phonetic thing. But anyway, yeah. So when you say there's definitely a lot of evil within governments. Yeah. But there's places in the world like Zomia where they don't have governments. And for a long period of time, again, I don't know how much of the history is real, but it was supposedly even Genghis Khan didn't even attempt to conquer Zomia because these are people that they don't believe in being ruled by government. So they're just like farmers and, they had whatever weapons they had at the time. Obviously now.
Where is Zomia?
So Zomia is, it's like over 1 million square miles between China, India, like Southeast Asia. Like it's a pretty large region.
Does it still exist?
Yes. Obviously now with modern technology, the situation's a little bit different. But when people say, like commies or socialists, they're like, this is the greatest idea ever. And then the counter is, well, has it ever worked without millions of people dying? And they're like, no, but it could work. And anarchists, which by the way, that doesn't mean lawlessness. That simply means there are no rulers. And so with anarchists, well, when has anarchy ever worked? Well, Zomia, it's worked there for a really long time. And there's no taxes. There's no, any kind of taxes. There's no forced anything. It's just people that are farmers. You have your piece of land. I mean, it's kind of how it was in again, if you believe the official history of how America was founded, which I'm not so sure any of that is true. But back in the day, you didn't have the government just putting your hand in your pocket like every second on everything.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, but not to the degree that's going on now in Western countries.
People moved to Texas and Florida during the scamdemic. Are people moving to Zambia?
It's called Zomia.
Zambia, the land of zombies. Are people like moving? Like you would think people?
No. So first of all, like the people that even come visit, so they're not really friendly to outsiders because throughout history, like a lot of times, because governments want to tax and control people. They just want to live free. And so they're not exactly welcoming. Oh, why don't you come visit us and we'll give you a piece of our. I mean, not that they really own the land. I mean, you're talking about over 1 million square miles. But it's a hard life too. I don't think there's no real modern convenience. Like you're talking about farming and very basic irrigation. I don't know what kind of sewers, like really basic, super basic, like no technology. Most of those farmers can't read or write. So
kind of like the Amish.
They're supposedly quite a bit more primitive than the Amish.
Have you done a video on the Amish?
No, but I probably should. I'm a big fan of the Amish, especially in any kind of quack scene debate. Everybody points out the modern science is the best. We have over 70 life expectancy. I'm like, well, that was the life expectancy. That's still the life expectancy today of the Amish. And it has been for hundreds of years. Like if you go into their the cemeteries, and people are like, well, wouldn't you rather have modern medicine? And I'm like, our life expectancy is like 5 to 10 years longer. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Being hooked up to a machine breathing for you and a million medications inflating the average life expectancy. Because right now, I think it's over 70%, somewhere around there, of people over the age of 65 need some kind of severe assisted living. Whereas the Amish, they might die at 70, but they're still walking around pretty healthy at 70. They're not hooked up, they're not relying on everybody to live. So it's a completely different situation. I mean, I kind of on Twitter, if people want to check out my Twitter, I kind of famously expose people's arguments with all their logical fallacies. And I'm actually working on a book on the Dunning-Kruger effect and how it affects society. So on Twitter is like a good example of that, because when people get triggered, they all melt down in the same exact way. they start they start psychological projection because their subconscious has identified that what you're saying is true, but they can't handle it. You got a combination of cognitive dissonance, narcissism, and it all manifests the same way in everybody's response. I think that's so fascinating. So whether it's a PhD on Twitter or some high school kid, they all end up posting the same way, the same fallacies, the same psychological projection, like all the psychological mechanics all break down the same way once their subconscious has realized that what you're saying is either true or potentially true, and you've pointed out the holes in their entire belief system.
Interesting. Now we sidetracked into the Amish, but you were talking about Zombia and Zomia and Tartaria.
Oh yeah, so Tartaria. Okay, so Tartaria. Okay, so when you say heaven isn't like, I think it is possible to be happy. Like one of the things I think is also fascinating, like even today there are uncontacted tribes. So there's uncontacted tribes, mostly, I mean, I don't know how many are left. Not too many are left. But let's say 20 years ago, there was quite a few left all over Southeast Asia, South America, maybe Africa. And if you just showed up in a helicopter with these cell phones that could live stream all around the world, like you would be a god with all of this incredible technology.
Yeah.
And so is that what has always happened through history, where you had pockets of people that didn't have technology? And I'm actually going to drop something kind of big on Native Americans right now, because I've always been fascinated with Native American mythology and their history, which, by the way, there's a really interesting book. I totally forgot the name, but it's the history of Native Americans in one particular area. I don't remember if it was California or not. They talk about the ancient white man that was there before they were.
Mm.
So that's kind of curious. So with Tartaria, I think it's the missing piece, because I think looking back at all of the history, it's almost like within the world of conspiracy, and I'm not saying anything is true or untrue, but if flat Earth is true, it's almost like it's only level 1 of like the conspiracy tower. And like Tartaria is like moving up, because once you get to Tartaria, like a lot of the flat Earth stuff it's almost like it's less interesting, because the history is so much more complex. Because with flat Earth, there's maybe 10, 20 different arguments, right, between globe Earth and flat Earth. I don't know how many people are coming up with new arguments, because unless you're going to fly around yourself. Oh, one other point I forgot with Satan's Little Season. Have you heard of the Land of Jesus?
No.
Yeah, check that out. I'll send you a link. I totally forgot her channel. There's a incredible researcher. She's doing a lot of work where physically, supposedly, there's this large landmass in between Alaska and Asia. And it is the Land of Jesus. It's still there right now. It's just censored on maps. And the evidence is that there's almost an entire missing time zone in that area. That doesn't make any sense. And then there's a lot of military in Alaska that supposedly is keeping all that a huge cover up. And Antarctica is almost like a distraction from the Land of Jesus. And on all these old maps, like with Tartaria, there's also the Land of Jesus. So you have these old Chinese maps that are showing this piece of land with this guy with a cross. And it's just really interesting. It actually, the first time I saw it, I really got mind shocked, because to me, that's kind of shocking, right? Like if there's a large landmass right now, today, in between Alaska and Russia and Asia, like that Bering Strait area.
Yeah.
How fascinating is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard the theory that, if the 1,000-year millennial reign is real, and then now we're after that, we're in the Satan's Little Season. That if all that's true, part of that theory is that Jesus is in the North Pole.
Yeah.
And that's why you look at maps today of the North Pole, and there's like no land. But you look at old maps from the 1500s, there's land masses in the North Pole that had like 4 rivers running into it, and
yeah. Have you heard the theory? So this is what I've been researching this the most lately. that whatever advanced technology they used for either mud flood or whatever these wars were in relatively recent history, some people think the Roman Empire was just a few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
And everything got skewed because when you think about it logically, how do you know what year anybody was counting from? So you're reading like these historical records, but how do you know what they were counting from? Like, how do you compare one historical document from another? Like, we can count the year, oh, it's the year 2000. What are we counting from? Somebody else has the year 1000, but if they're counting from a different date, we could be on the same year.
Yeah. For
So,
sure. I think the timeline is for sure all screwed up for sure.
Yeah. If you check out Fomenko's new chronology, that was kind of my introduction to all of this, Anatoly Fomenko, and it's absolutely fascinating because he actually mathematically breaks down all of these astronomical events, eclipses, whatever that happened, and they don't match the historical record at all. So,
isn't he the one who's saying that, like, the Egyptians, the Romans, and all these epic eras were actually going on at the same time instead of separated by hundreds of thousands of years?
So he's pretty complicated. From what I understand, he was kind of saying a lot of these events are all describing the same events and they're not different. So, like, for example, Napoleon the first, the second, that like they were all the same guy, and that Jesus might have been all the same guy from like Mithras and all of these. They were all describing the same event. And the years are all messed up.
Because you could look at it two different ways. Like, oh, Jesus didn't exist because look, the Egyptians had a Jesus story, the Hindus had a Jesus story, all these ancient cultures had the same exact Jesus story. He died, on a cross, and then rose from the dead 3 days later. So it can't be true. And you could also look at it like, no, it was probably all one story, but they just They just made it their own,
Well, let me introduce you to a third option. What is? If history repeats, what if we're going through all these resets and the same thing keeps happening? And that's so curious because with the mud flood or whatever, if they're using advanced weaponry, the advanced weaponry might have literally changed the Earth's climate and physical continent shape, size, layout. Because you've seen the old maps where California is an island.
Yeah.
And so what if those are all true, and then the climate changed? That actually explains a lot, right? Because how stupid, like, do people really think these old map makers are just that dumb? Like, they can do all of these advanced features. They have all the names of cities, which, by the way, on my last episode of The True History of the World, The Real History of the World, I go over Pompeii and Herculaneum. They were on maps in the 1600s, but they're supposedly covered by ash from an event that happened thousands of years before. It doesn't add up. Because why are they on more modern maps?
Yeah. What if Indians, the whole cowboys and Indian story, like Christopher Columbus, he came, there was Indians, and then, they colonized the East Coast, they're battling the Indians, and then, cowboys slowly came out west battling the Indians. What if, if you're into the whole Tartarian Great Reset theory, that what if it seems like the cities were already here? Because every city across the United States has structures that do not fit the timeline.
Yep.
All of them, right. So what if there was like, the past, the old world, the cities were filled with people, and then some cataclysmic event happened, killed everybody in the cities. Maybe it was some kind of, since everything was running on free electricity, maybe there was this, it was purposely done, maybe some like electromagnetic, short circuit of everything, and everyone died. But the survivors were the ones that weren't part of the city. They were like the hillbillies, the Indians. So what if like the Indians, they know about the cities? Like, yeah, that's where the old world used to live. But, we don't fuck with cities because of what, we're like hillbillies, we're nomads. And then the Europeans came and they just tell the Indian story, but they don't tell the story about like, yeah, the cities were already here and we're just repopulating the cities. Let's just stick to the cowboys and Indian story. So the Indian part is like half right. They're just leaving out the fact that the cities were already here. They were just empty.
Yeah, so it is really curious because it's hard to rectify all of this because there's so much conflicting information. One of the Native American theory that I was going to drop, I call them Native Americans because Indians are supposedly from India. Yeah. And then you had the West Indies supposedly from Columbus's mistake. But I don't know if any of that's true because even just going back to Pompeii for a second, in the mosaics in Pompeii, they have pineapples. Pineapples did not exist in that region.
Yeah.
So did they travel the whole world? And so I think there may have been worldwide civilizations. So for example, Atlantis. So if we're going in order to the best that I can piece it together, if the previous era was Tartaria and the one before was Atlantis, and the same thing happens, the Atlanteans, which was another worldwide civilization, they reached a point of technology where it was too great and they destroyed themselves. And then the survivors or whatever, the god or the gods wiped them out for whatever reason. And then in the next reset, the survivors, like the whether it's Native Americans, the ancient Chinese, Africa, the Celts, the Celtic people, the survivors kind of went to these areas. And the Native Americans, the reason why they live with nature and they don't go into cities and develop technology is because that's lesson learned. So their whole philosophy of living with nature and not developing tech and avoiding tech is because that's what destroyed the world the previous time.
Yes. Imagine a high level Dances with Wolves production, like of like an Indian movie, a movie where it starts off, you see some Indians, see some teepees and all that. Then you follow a few of them off on horses, and then you think, they're in the middle of, Arizona, and there's like nothing. And then they ride into an abandoned, now all of a sudden these Indians they had to go into one of the cities to get something or whatever, like some sort of supplies or something. Or maybe they just went in just to check it out. There were like some Indians that were like, curious and they just wanted to, every now and then they go into the deserted cities just for fun. You know what I mean? A movie like that where it shows like it's a movie about the old world and the mainstream narrative on U.S. history, like mixed in together.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, which is why I think it'll probably never happen in Hollywood because
it would have to be, the cool thing about AI is that a lot of people are like, oh, they're worried about AI. It's really damn close to just uploading a script and then AI just makes a movie for you.
Yeah,
the good thing
that's wild.
The good thing about that is that anybody's going to be able to make a movie. So no longer are we going to be at the mercy of whatever Miramax or DreamWorks puts out. Because, by the time they get a script, like some script that, some writer wrote without any propaganda, they take scripts and then they flip it and change it and then they propagandize it. Now we're gonna have endless movies, that aren't propagandized. So I think AI in that sense is awesome.
Well, you think there's not going to be a major reset before that happens? I'm thinking just logistically looking, because I didn't really think about it the exact way you just laid it out. But now that I'm thinking about it, it seems like the so-called powers that be wouldn't let it get to that point.
It's already there. Like musically, like AI has already mastered music. Like I've been producing music my whole life, making music, making demo tapes since the 80s, demo tapes in the 80s, demo tapes in the 90s, demo tapes in the 2000s, demo tapes in the 2010s. I always make demo tapes. And for someone who makes music, for someone who writes music, the dream is to get these low-level production demos and somehow get a record deal and get a major record deal, not an indie one, because the major one is going to get the maximum production. Just like someone who writes movies and is like an aspiring director. Their dream is, at first they write scripts and put together movies with their, low level low budget production movies, and you could see that there was not that much money involved in the production element. So the same thing with music. You know, the dream is like, oh, I'm going to hopefully a producer or a record executive or some powerful A&R guy can see through the low level production of my demo tape and have vision to see what these songs will sound like with the ultimate production. It's always a dream that most 99.9999% of these dreams from songwriters, they never materialize because they never end up getting a record deal. And if they do, if they're lucky enough, it might be like an indie record deal. And then you have some indie engineer, indie producer, and yeah, you got signed and you're on an indie label, but the production still isn't like it would be if you put $1 million into the production and had like Bob Rock or Rick Rubin or like there's only a handful of these engineers that could make your song sound like $1 million. But now with AI, shit, that's easy. All that's gone now. Now with Suno, the app Suno, you take your demo, you just take your demo, old school demo. I've been doing this for the last month. Like I discovered Suno a month ago. I'm like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this my whole fucking life. So I'm taking all my old demos, and I have like 100 old demos from all these different projects that I put together, hoping that someone would have the vision to hopefully get to Atlantic Records and Capitol Records and make it sound what it's supposed to sound like with amazing production. And now with an app, you pay $30 a month. 30 with Suno. You take your old demo, you upload it to Suno. It takes about 30 seconds to upload your demo. Then you write out all the lyrics, but you don't even need to write out the lyrics. They can figure out the lyrics on its own. Like they can figure out what it's saying, but you write out the lyrics because it makes a lot of mistakes. Because sometimes the production level on these demos are so low that even the AI can't even make out what the fuck you're saying. But like the AI can make out like 85% of what the lyrics are saying, but you write them all out anyways just to make it perfect. And then you give it a prompt, which is basically telling Suno exactly what you would tell an engineer. Because the way I've been doing it, because I've been getting high level production on my I know some high level engineers. Danny Lohner's one of them. Billy Howard is another one that I have to pay a few $1,000s, and it takes months for one song to get the ultimate production. And I have achieved that. I have achieved high level production, but I pay for it. It takes a lot of time, hours and hours all night of engineering to get these songs to sound like high level. Now, shit, upload the song, write out the lyrics, tell it exactly what you want. Press create, and by the time you press create, it takes 20 seconds, and out pops out $1 million production version of your song. It's your song, it's your lyrics, your chord progression, but Suno made it sound like you had the greatest engineer and greatest producer of all time. It's not even just okay production.
Yeah.
It's the best production.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
And you could make it reggae. You go, make it a reggae song. You load up a demo, it'll make it a reggae song in 20 seconds. It'll make it a country song in 20 seconds. It'll make it a soul song in 20 seconds. You've seen on YouTube, like Alice in Chains, soul, Soundgarden, country.
Yeah, I've played around with those. I just, on the movie side, it's because it does take quite a bit of, I'm sure the technology is already there and it's already been there for a while, but in terms of giving it to like anybody, like a high school kid that can make a 2-hour Hollywood perfect CGI, like the technology's already been there, but in terms of controlled rollout, it would seem like they wouldn't want that out there just because it would be too easy for everybody. The mainstream would be completely dead.
Yeah, it's there's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it because like this technology is crushing the music business in such a way that Warner Brothers just had to make a deal with Suno. They were like suing them all, like Universal, Sony, and Warner Brothers were suing Suno over the last few months. And they just came to they realized like, damn, instead of suing them, let's make a deal with them. So now they made a deal. So now they're all working together now. The major record labels and Suno, which is AI, they're all working together now. Instead of suing them, they join forces. You can't stop it. And Suno, the next thing that's about to drop is not only can it make your, I mean, you still need to upload your own song. You still need to be a songwriter. Yes, AI can write your own lyrics and write your own song. You don't have to do anything. You can just say, write a song, boy meets girl, girl cheats on boy, and then make it sound like grunge. And it'll do it for you, but it ain't going to be any good. Like if AI writes the lyrics and writes the music, it ain't going to be any good. It's impossible because the only good lyrics come from human experiences, like real experiences. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear, like once you find out AI wrote it, you know it's not a human experience and you know it ain't real and you know it's fake. So the song has to be real. What AI does is it remixes your song into a production level that is not even pretty good. It's perfect mastering. Yeah. It's ready to go on. It sounds incredible. It's incredible. And the crazy thing is right out the gate, when you press create, when you're ready to go, when you upload the song, you upload the lyrics, you give it some prompts, give it some direction. Once you press create, it takes 20 seconds. But even if it would have taken a week, like, it would be amazing if you said, dude, you upload your demo, you upload your demo, and in a week, oh my God, it sounds like, it came from Capitol Records. It would be amazing if it took a week, even an hour, even 2 days, but it's 20 seconds. And it's perfect. It's fucking crazy. So now the new thing they're going to do with Suno is they're going to make you a music video too. They're going to add that. They're going to take your demo and make it sound like $1 million and have a music video with it.
Isn't that's crazy? Wild.
That's crazy.
On the topic of the music industry, I do have a question for you because I know you know a lot about, because I'm a big fan of 80s metal, but like you, I'm not really a fan of Satanism. So I did have a question for you. Do you think, because I don't think all the bands were in on it. So like, for example, Kiss kind of looks kind of obvious. Some of like the overtly satanic ones. But what about like Whitesnake?
Well, Kiss, I grew up a massive Kiss fan. And man, they have, like, when you think about it, Kiss is the perfect Illuminati band. Perfect. Yeah. They got Paul Stanley, which was, I mean, he's like the ambiguous, trans type. Like he's kind of fruity, and prances around. And he was like that. He was kind of like the transgender guy in the band. Kinda. He was kind of like, he's like, he always did that shit. And then you had Gene Simmons. That was the demon. He represented the demon. You have a transgender. You have a demon. You have the spaceman. Ace Frehley was the spaceman. That's fucking the biggest psyop of all time. And then I couldn't think of like the drummer, Peter Criss. He was the cat. And the only thing I could think of the cat what would be was like Egyptians worshiped cats, and like Babylonians, ancient Babylonia, they worship cats. For some reason. So I don't know, but it does seem like that. And then they called them knights in Satan's service, kings in Satan's service or whatever. So Kiss seems like the ultimate Illuminati band. Were they in on it? I don't know. I don't really think so. I don't know. I mean, maybe.
So wait, you think like their managers or something just told them that was a good idea?
Maybe their manager was Bill Aucoin, who, he had an interesting background, and he was a TV guy who I don't know. Bill Aucoin, he's dead now, died of AIDS, so I don't know. Do you believe in AIDS and all that shit? But when it comes to this is when I was 15, 1985, and this is when I realized you cannot trust the news, because it's 1985 and I was 15 into hardcore shit. Slayer was like, every song was like about Satan and killing motherfuckers and murdering and sending their souls to hell. Satan all over the place. Hell Awaits was the name of they're so overtly satanic in lyrically. But we never thought, as fans of Slayer, we never thought they were actually satanic. Because all of us, we were atheists at this time. Grew up Catholic, and then when I was 11, I became atheist because I thought everybody was Catholic. And then once you find out that, like, what's a Muslim? Like, why aren't they Catholic? And what's a Jew? What, Jewish? That's a religion? Like, they don't believe the same shit we believe in? How do we? So at 11, I was like, wait a minute, there's all these other religions? I thought everybody was Catholic. So then I became atheist. So and all my friends became atheists at the same time. We grew out our hair, and I would write satanic lyrics. I was in a speed metal band. My first band was a speed metal band, and I love Slayer, Metallica. There was a German thrash scene that was super satanic, but nobody thought they were satanic. I didn't think Slayer was actually satanic. And they were writing satanic ass lyrics, but way more satanic than any of the commercial bands like Motley Crue and Judas Priest. Like Motley Crue might mention like the devil or something, but they were singing about chicks. So like real fans of metal didn't think the super satanic speed metal bands were satanic, and way less did we think that like Motley Crue or Twisted Sister was satanic. They were like a joke. They're like satanic. These guys don't even sing about. They go, I wanna rock, bum, ba-da-da, bum, ba-da-da, I wanna rock. Like we thought that was pussy ass shit. That was the furthest thing from Satan. And so in 2020, that ABC News series came out, and they had. Do you remember 2020?
What in reference to what?
2020 was a show in the
right,
ABC show, and they did and it would be an hour-long show, and it would have like 3 segments, 3 different stories. And one of the stories was if your kid has these,
I remember that. Yeah,
they may be satanic. So we're watching this, and they were like holding up Twisted Sister albums. Like, if your son has a Twisted Sister album, he may be satanic. And then they would hold up like Iron Maiden and like Judas Priest. Like if your son's having and right there, they didn't even bring up Slayer. Like, how come you guys aren't bringing up Slayer? What about Creator and Sodom and Destruction? There's so many bands that they could have easily made it seem way more believable, but they're bringing up like Motley Crue and Twisted Sister.
Well, I think my theory, so real quick, because I'm going to tie in the true crime to this as well. My theory, like with Satanic Panic and some of this stuff, I think they do it on purpose for plausible deniability. And I also do think a lot of the mainstream bands like Twisted Sister, I don't know if you've looked up some of the really deep conspiracy videos, they do have hidden stuff in the tracks. Like backwards, like in the back, it's like really hard to hear. It's really tough, but there is some kind of MK Ultra programming in the mainstream bands as well. But I
believe all music, like now looking back, I don't believe that the guys in Slayer went to like satanic churches and prayed to Satan. I think they were just like writing. It's just like, it's like accusing people who write horror movies as being satanic. To me, it was just, we're just trying to scare people and stuff. But I do believe every musical genre does have some CIA backing, like from the 60s to the 70s I think like hair metal, I'm sure that was a CIA side.
Yeah.
I think that was like going out, let's get everyone to dress like girls, but we can't have them be gay yet. That's too much too soon. Let's get them. How are we going to get them to dress like girls? It's going to get them pussy. Like they're going to think that if they look like a chick, they're going to get chicks. So I think that's how they got, because
that's kind of dark. That's kind of dark when you think about it that way, right?
Yeah, it's like, and then they pulled the plug on it, and they went, you know what? When grunge came in, I go, dude, we got the record sales are low with the hair metal. People were getting the hair metal thing was like, okay, we're done with it. We got people to dress like girls. Okay, now to the next phase was grunge. It's to get them suicidal and addicted to heroin and super depressed. So I think grunge, that was the next CIA psyop.
So in your opinion, like White Snake, Dio, like some of these bands, like they weren't like knowingly in it.
No.
Cool. Yeah, because I still like listening to some of the old 80s metal.
Yeah, I still do. I think they're like controlled opposition that didn't know they were controlled opposition.
Right, yeah. Now, Manowar, nobody talks about Manowar. Did you like Manowar?
I never spent any time I don't even know one song, but I know who they are. They dress like Conan the Barbarian.
It was kind of like fantasy metal where they're always talking about swords and medieval stuff.
Yes,
They actually had
there was a speed metal band called Exciter from Canada, and they're all talking. It was always about like medieval battles with
Well, yeah, Manowar actually had the world at one point. I don't know if they still have the record. They had the Guinness World Record for loudest band. Yeah. They got the most decibels in. But yeah, we could kind of round this out with the true crime, because you kind of introduced me as true crime. I do a lot of true crime. I do a lot of everything. But with true crime, a lot of people don't realize the level of conspiracy that's going on in these cases, not necessarily to the top of government, but for example, like you've seen Making a Murderer on Netflix. That was like one of the most popular ones.
Yes, I saw that.
And that's one of my longest series. Like, it's the most obvious wrongful conviction ever, because
now in the net, I haven't seen the documentary in so long. I needed to see it again. But in the Netflix version, did they get it right? Like, who was at fault?
So,
or they were trying to steer you in the wrong direction.
So two things. There's season 1 and season 2, which are a bit different from each other. That's actually a really interesting question. I think they were afraid, and they only revealed. So the whole reason I did my podcast is because they only revealed 1% of the known corruption. It was like unbelievable. And people were saying, oh, the documentary was just anti-cop. Anti-cop. That documentary was pro-cop compared to the amount of corruption there was. Like, for example, people say, oh, he threw a cat in a fire. Stephen Avery, like, it's on record, the guy that he was with actually has a handwritten statement admitting that he picked up the cat and threw it in the fire. And Stephen Avery just happened to be there, and he was like blackout drunk.
Now, real quick, can you just give me a brief synopsis on it real quick? Remind me of what it's about again.
Yeah, so Stephen Avery's this guy in Wisconsin. His family owns a junkyard. He was, in 1985, he was framed, and I actually interviewed the guy whose testimony is just absolutely incredible for this, but he was actually framed for the assault of a woman on a beach while he was at, I forgot which restaurant, like McDonald's or Burger King. He was like, in another county, I don't know if it was the same county or next county over, he would have had to drive like 110 miles an hour just to get to the beach to assault the woman. And there were a dozen witnesses. He had the receipts from the restaurant, and the guy, they've had it out for his family forever back there. So he was actually in prison falsely. The same police framed him in 1985. Then he finally gets out of jail somewhere around 2000. I forgot the exact year, 2001, 2003, somewhere around there. And then Teresa Hallback, auto trader photographer, who happened to work for the same office where there was an undercover agent. Like, this thing is just bonkers. And the documentary didn't even go into that. Like, they didn't expose any of this. And so she ends up coming to take a photograph of his sister's van. And by the way, Avery lives in a trailer right next to his sister in a junkyard where on Halloween, dozens of people are coming and going and talking to Stephen Avery. And somehow he has time to have a bonfire where he kills her, he burns her, but somehow the plastic from the cell phone survives, which, by the way, the cell phone is pinging towers after she left him, after she left his residence. And anyway, she disappeared, supposedly cremated. There's no actual DNA evidence she's even dead. And they put him in prison, and he's still in prison today. And so he gets out of prison by the same cops that framed him. And not only did they frame him, they had recorded calls. He was suing them. There's tens of millions of dollars on the line because he's suing them. So the people that think he's guilty are basically saying the people that framed him when their careers and tens of millions of dollars were not on the line, they somehow wouldn't do it when it was.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's like the quick summary. And so there's no evidence of anything. So he supposedly kills her in his trailer. Then they also said he killed her in the garage. There's not a single speck of blood anywhere. There's like years of dust and grime in the garage. Like, nothing is found. And then weeks, if not months later, the same cops that framed him and work for that department, they're the only ones that are finding any so-called evidence against him. It's just really weird. It's the most obvious wrongful conviction case I've ever seen. But to answer your question on what the documentary filmmakers are doing, I think they did want to help him, but they were too scared to give like a lot of the real information. So you're getting 1% of it, but you're like dipping your toe into the truth. And a lot of this stuff is so dark. And even Scott Peterson, like, what's your opinion on the Scott Peterson case?
You know what? I didn't look into that at all. Like he murdered his wife or his girlfriend or something?
Allegedly, but there's no actual evidence. Like, it's another wrongful conviction where if he did do it, same thing with Stephen Avery. If Stephen Avery did kill Teresa Hallback, if she's even dead, and this is so obvious, you can go through the original police interviews. Nobody's even talking about a bonfire with Stephen Avery. It's only after the cops interview, in quotations, all these people, all of a sudden, weeks and months later, then they're talking about a bonfire. But there was no bonfire initially. And so it just doesn't make any sense. But with Scott Peterson, it's the same thing. Like, if he really did kill Lacey Peterson, he did not do it in any way as the state claimed. So it's clearly a wrongful conviction because they're saying he did all these things. There's a burglary going on across the street from their home. And the cops covered all that up. They tried to pretend it was on a different day, and they destroyed evidence to protect it. They supposedly forgot to put batteries in the tape recorder when they're interviewing Scott Peterson the first time. All of the neighbors saw Lacey Peterson walking around the neighborhood after Scott Peterson had already left. Like, there's all these things that are hidden from the trial, and it's so obvious.
So what do you think? What do you think if you had a guess, like with the Stephen Avery case, like who killed the woman on the beach? And
well,
why would they cover it up?
So the assault on the beach in 85, that I believe that was the neighbor of the police chief, coincidentally.
Oh.
And coincidentally, they have these satanic parties. And so I have a whistleblower that kind of went over all this. I have an interview with him on the channel. And so you could check that out. But there's a long history of the occult and Satanism in Manitowoc County. I actually did a whole episode called Coincidence County, where I go back 100 years and go through all these coincidences where people are being framed and murdered and all of this police corruption. So basically, there's no evidence Teresa Hallback is even dead. So I don't know if they just did some kind of witness relocation or something, because some people think that she was working undercover and that she found something out about the cops or that area, and they either took her out for real or like they wanted a 2 birds, 1 stone situation with Stephen Avery. But I don't really know what happened, obviously, but the cover up is so incredible. I don't know how they would ever let the truth out, because that would implicate all of them. And so there's another guy, Brendan Dassey, his nephew. This is a guy with, a developmentally challenged child, a minor who was coerced by cops without an attorney or parent present. I mean, it's disgusting watching the video. If you remember the clips, I still haven't watched the full video. I had to go through the transcript because it's hard to watch that. Like, think about like how much of a corrupt cop you have to be. Like, even if you really think Avery's guilty, to just do that is incredible. There's another case, in Austin, Texas. Actually, there was a case with a fire. The Austin yogurt shop murders. I don't know if you remember that one.
No.
And when they were interviewing the suspects, one of the cops actually took out his gun and put it to the back of the guy's head and pressed it against his skull during the so-called interview. And it's on video of the cop doing that. And people really don't know the amount of innocent people in prison. Like, I did a number of podcasts on this. The estimates are anywhere between 1% and 40%.
Whoa.
I mean, you're talking millions of innocent people in prison because of not just incompetence, but corruption. And again, it's like logic is dead. They're not like there's no problem with the law. Nobody's following the actual law because it's, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's not even close to that. Like, if you can't even provide evidence that somebody who was murdered is actually dead, like, what are you even talking about? Like, how are you even at a trial?
Did you ever do a video on Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington?
I started doing the research there. Some people believe it's also connected to Anne Hesh.
I mean, apparently Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington were best friends, and they were working on a documentary like exposing child trafficking. That's what they said.
Yeah, Anne Hesh supposedly was involved with that as well. And that was the rumor mill. Again, it's all supposed, and none of it makes any sense. And they're not the only ones. You have, was it like Avicii or something?
Yes.
Yeah, also.
A DJ.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the music.
You haven't done any
Yeah, some of the music videos are really wild. And when you look at what they're exposing, I mean, it's really fascinating in the post-Epstein era that there are still coincidence theorists left who think that bad people only act alone. It's just weird. Like the amount of trafficking and corruption. Like I went over the Johnny Gosch case, if you're familiar with that one. I think that's one of them.
That's the one from the
Paperboy from the 80s. What was that?
His dad was formed the TV show America's something.
No, that's Walsh. That was Walsh. Which, by the way, okay. So have you read the book Programmed to Kill?
I don't read books.
Okay. So, well, you could check out my podcast on it. I believe that was Dave McGowan wrote this book, meticulously well researched. It's the serial killer conspiracy, supposedly like John Wayne Gacy, Dahmer. Dahmer is also connected to John Walsh. Some people think Dahmer was involved in killing John Walsh's son. And because he happened, like I went over all this on my Dahmer podcast, a lot of these serial killers, coincidentally, all were at the same U.S. military bases, where people think there may have been MK Ultra programming originally from the Phoenix program. And these are not organic, crazy people going around killing. They're programmed to kill. With Dahmer, what I found insane. So supposedly he's doing all of these abductions and killings. Like some of these are, one of them was literally in front of a police station where he's parking illegally. He's smuggling, like a witness said he took a kid, John Walsh, I believe it was Walsh that he said that this happened. There's a police station across the street from the mall, and he parked his van illegally, crooked. So not only does he not get a ticket, not only do the cops don't care, in the middle of the day, in broad daylight, he's dragging a kid, kicking and screaming into his van. And there was another situation where there was like a 14-year-old kid bleeding, escaped from his apartment where Dahmer was trying to kill him. The cops showed up and just let him go back with Dahmer up into the apartment. And so it really makes you question, are these serial killers protected by police? Because some of these are so mind-shocking. Like you would think if this was an organic situation, it would have never got that far because they would have been locked up a long time ago. And if when they are locked up, they're magically being let go all the time.
Yeah, and like Ted Bundy seems like, I mean, wasn't he like from like a wealthy family and he was a politician? Ted Bundy? I'm still in the middle. I was putting together a Bundy podcast. There are so many things that don't add up about the story. I'm not finished with my research. I don't really want to speak on it too much. There are so many holes in that story. Like he's escaping from police custody too. Like there's so many things like these guys keep getting arrested and somehow magically they keep escaping. It's weird. It's just a little weird. It's like Ted Bundy may have been like just a why, like, because the controllers are probably getting together like, Bohemian Grove style and like killing people, having rituals and doing that kind of stuff in a controlled environment. And, in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to get caught. They're really careful, but they're still doing these sacrifices and rituals. But like Ted Bundy was like probably just a wild dude and just getting drunk and doing shit on his own. And they're probably at Bohemian Grove, like having meetings like, dude, you gotta talk to your boy, Ted, man. He's out of control. He's going to get us all busted. So, you know what I mean? He's probably they probably knew about him. Like, dude, Ted, he's out of control. We got to talk.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Some people think that the programmed serial killers are all just part of just like the satanic agenda of causing so much negativity in the world, like just the negative energy, because humans are so good by nature. There's just not enough evil. There are some evil people, but there's just not enough. So they want to artificially create all this chaos and then plug it in the media. Like with Satanic Panic, I was saying before with the plausible deniability, I did a 9.5-hour podcast with receipts on every single documented, prosecutable, with video evidence, satanic ritual abuse cases. And in the mainstream, there's still stupid people saying, oh, well, that's just a myth. That was made up. Yeah. That was just Satanic Panic. And I think there's a bit of plausible deniability because they'll take a fake case and they'll say, see, they're all fake, and then ignore all the real ones.
Yeah, it seems like, I was at the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios a month and a half ago. And it's just they just put together like maybe 5 big haunted houses, and they're all the same. They're all the same. You walk through, everyone walks through, and then there's people that jump out and scare you with chainsaws and axes, and then they hide, and you're just they're all the same. It's the characters are just different, but it's the same shit, just blood, guts, body parts, and it's packed, it's sold out, and I'm thinking the controllers like this. They really like this scaring people. I wonder why. And I just thought maybe it's to teach us what to be afraid of. So when they capture the kids and they traumatize them, that they're really scared because of the movies they saw, because of the haunted house they went to. Now they learn what to be scared of. And now this is real life. It's not a haunted house. It's real. And and they need that trauma. Apparently, this is what they say, that they need the trauma to so that their adrenal glands dump a bunch of adrenochrome in their blood.
Oh, I knew we would be mentioning adrenochrome at some point.
You know what I'm talking about? So
yeah.
There's kids sometimes, like you see a video of a kid, he was never taught to be scared of snakes, and then there's like a snake, and he's snake. So I think they realize that they need to teach people what to be afraid of, and then I think a lot of the satanic rituals and some people really believe in that shit and Satan and all that, and I believe. But it's also, even if you don't believe in it, you get the kids in there and you pretend like you're the satanic priest just to scare them, just so that their blood is more powerful.
Yeah, have you seen the Loosh theories?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, Loosh is simply like the negative entities of the world want more negative energy. So when any kind of fear or hate or evil, that just feeds the demons with the energy.
I could buy that.
So they want as much as possible of that in the world. And so, yeah. So, but just another interview for you would be great. If you're not familiar with the Johnny Gosch case, Johnny Gosch was early 80s disappearance of a newspaper boy in Des Moines, Iowa.
And then doesn't he turn up like he's like 10 years later or 5 years later? He turns up at his mom's house, and apparently, it seems
that's
like
the one.
He got kidnapped and
a great interview for you would be his mother, Noreen Gosch. And she's uncovered, like, she was discovering all of these like corrupt conspiracies. Like the police chief was involved with all of these like Epstein part. Like this was Epstein before Epstein. The Gosch case is connected to the Franklin scandal, which has the amount of whistleblowers there is Paul Bonacci is one of the biggest ones. And it's actually kind of crazy. You can't find the full episode on America's Most Wanted. Like it aired on national television, and somehow, like I'm pretty good at finding stuff online. Somehow nobody has been able to find, like nobody taped it off TV. Like there's little clips. I posted them in an episode, like all the clips that exist, and nobody has like a full episode. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like every other show, like there's every single episode of Cops or like any of these other shows, like every single episode is available. It's available streaming. It's available here. Somebody's got an old VHS, but nobody has it. But she would be a great interview for you. But Paul Bonacci was one of the first major whistleblowers. He actually drew a schematic of the White House, including all the restricted areas where nobody's allowed to go. Like, how would some random kid know that?
Yeah.
And so he said this was all the way back to Bush Sr., and supposedly they had kids going into the White House and all this crazy, like really dark satanic stuff.
That documentary, the Franklin cover-up, or the Franklin scandal, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
They made a documentary about that, but they never released it, right? You could find it, though, somewhere online.
Are you talking? Yeah. There is. It's
called
based on the book.
Conspiracy of Silence.
Yes. Yeah. You can find that online. And that's the tip of the iceberg, by the way. Like, it's so dark. I have a whole Johnny Gosh series going over all of it. And I mean, it's so, like, the amount of receipts, like coincidence theorists pretend the conspiracy theorists are just crazy, but the amount of evidence is so extreme. I mean, it's just most people don't realize just the sheer amount of evidence available for all. Like, I have literal newspaper articles on the screen. You have actual rings of traffickers being arrested in that area, including the names that these whistleblowers gave. And they'll say, oh, well, they're just crazy and somehow making it up and somehow guessing everything correctly. It's just a little weird, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard about this, and this may not be true, but I heard that Courtney Love contacted Candace Owens and told her that she's coming clean, that the CIA had Kurt Cobain taken out.
Okay, so I didn't know that this was going to go here, but I did a whole podcast on Kurt Cobain. So Courtney Love, a lot of people don't know this. There's documented evidence of her just somehow, I don't know on whose dime, traveling the world, and she's working at all these strip clubs. Allegedly, she's like an escort for all these like politicians all around the world. And the amount of just sketchy background there. So that's really interesting. The CIA connections between Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain, there's something weird going on there for sure. I don't know exactly what it is.
Because, you know, there's some people that think she had something to do with it, and that it was a cover up. But if she had something to do with it and there was a cover up, like why would the Seattle Police Department give a fuck about Courtney Love? Like it would have to be like a CIA thing, right? It would have to be like something bigger than her, right?
So if you actually look at the amount of people connected to her that died, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's Clinton level, but if you go through Courtney Love's history, it's pretty dark with the amount of cover-ups. And it's like the same coroner doing the autopsy all the time who's saying that, yeah, this is all like an accidental death. Because I'm going to drop Kristen Pfaff's name. Nobody talks about her anymore. She was in the band Hole with Courtney Love. Do you remember Kristen Pfaff?
Yeah, she was the bass player that she had. Apparently, she OD'd, right?
Supposedly. Have you ever looked into it?
I looked into it a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a wild one. There's missing pages from her diary, like all of it. It doesn't make any sense. The story doesn't make any sense. It really seems like Courtney Love has way too many connections to all these people that died. And you combine that with her background of just traveling the world randomly and being involved with all of this. And then after Kurt Cobain dies, now she's like this super powerhouse in the industry. And again, I'm not a musician, but the opinion is Courtney Love is not this great musician.
That her album that came out right after Kurt died, I mean, it was like odd timing. That album, that has like some great songs on it. And it turns out the rumor is that Kurt actually wrote those songs.
Yeah, I don't think that's a rumor. Yeah, I don't think that's a rumor. That's kind of, from what I've seen, it's kind of established.
Kurt wrote them?
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah,
those songs are good.
And possibly not just him. I think there were one or two other musicians she stole from. But
I would say, personally, I think that whole album is better than the Nevermind album. I think that whole album.
Wow.
It's like, it makes sense that Kurt Cobain probably helped her because.
Well, have you seen?
She didn't want to put out a second album. She wasn't going to put out another album. You know, Kurt's dead now. And then she was dating Billy Corgan. And then Billy Corgan said, hey, I'll help you write the second album. So that second album with Malibu, that apparently Billy Corgan helped her write that. So I don't know.
Yeah. So some people think these are all like deals with the devil that were made to get her fame and fortune. But have you seen the evidence regarding the practice suicide notes that were found in her backpack? Like, and she was supposedly trying to copy Kurt's handwriting.
I didn't know about that. No.
Yeah, there's some pretty damning information, and her and trying to control the PI. I mean, there's so much that that points in her direction.
Did you hear about her daughter, Frances Bean's fiance that was like kidnapped? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think I covered that a little bit. There were a lot of people who said that Courtney Love literally threatened their lives. I even had a little clip on the Kurt Cobain episode I did where she just made some really weird comments about Kristen and Kurt. Like, it's a little weird. Now, I think it was all in a vacuum, or is it possible Courtney is being influenced by the CIA? And then you know how like a lot of these MK Ultra celebrities, they have their psychotic breaks later in life when they're older? Yeah. Because apparently she did make a statement that the CIA killed him later, like a lot later.
I heard it was just recently that she got a hold of Candace Owens and told.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that.
This is something new. She's trying.
Do you know
Candace?
Do you know Candace?
I don't know her. No.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you about her too, because she's going hard in the paint like recently.
Yeah. What do you think about the Charlie Kirk assassination?
I haven't. So I don't like to watch. So even though I cover true crime, I never look at crime scene photos. I don't want that in my head. I don't look at any gore that might potentially be real. So people say the whole Charlie Kirk thing was fake. I don't know that it's fake, and I don't really want to do a frame-by-frame analysis of any of that. Do I think it's weird? Yes, everything is weird, right? So, I mean, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, the first time I saw the video, when it first happened, before it blew, like right when it happened, I go, yo, Charlie Kirk got shot, and I saw it on my phone, I immediately thought it was CGI and it was fake. It looked like green screen type stuff to me. It didn't look real to me. I'm not saying it's not real.
Yeah,
that was my first thought. Like, oh, look at the way the blood's coming out. It looks like there's a green screen behind the blood. So then I just dismissed it. But then people kept bringing it up. No, he's dead. No, he wasn't dead at first. He was in critical condition for like I don't know how many minutes, and then it came out that he was dead.
Well, what do you think of Tupac?
I haven't really looked into it that much.
He's CIA.
You think he was?
I did a whole expose on it, and if he's not, the coincidence stack is a mile high because people like cross-reference his Social Security number. Like, people did some homework. His mother was a Black Panther that was supposedly imprisoned with another woman at the time that he would have had to have been conceived. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up.
Yeah, I totally believe that because when you see that video of him when he was really young and he's clearly ultra effeminate, and then all of a sudden he's like this West Coast gangbanger like that. Like all of a sudden, like wow.
Have you seen the interview where he slipped up?
What does he say?
So this is not when he's young. This is when he's at the height of his fame. And in one famous interview, I went over it on my podcast that I did on it. He slips up because he gets really into talking about like the West Side, East Side, and like stopping violence and all that. And he says something about like G's, like West Side and East Side G's, like sleeping with each other. And then you could see the look on his face where he realizes, holy crap, what did I just say? And then he's like, oh, and by G's, I mean women. So anybody who's been around back then knows you don't call G's for gangsta. Yeah. Like you don't call a woman a gang. Like you don't call. I've never seen anyone reference. I've lived in some cities. I've never seen or heard anybody reference a woman as a G. Have you?
No.
And it's so obvious from the look on his face when he realizes what he just said.
Yeah, the whole gangster rap psyop, that's the craziest one of all. I think even crazier than the '60s one, like the
yeah.
I think
it's crazy
because the rap one was specifically designed to get people in jail. Like and what's worse than that? And along the way, while people are going to jail, people are also dying and getting murdered too. So the whole thing where black people commit more crime per capita this than white people than that, than more capita. Dude, it's because of rap. Gangster rap music. That shit's so powerful. Music is so powerful. And they haven't even let up on the gas at all. You watch music videos, rap music videos.
Yeah.
They're not even gangster. They don't even it's not even about gangs anymore. It's just about criminal activity. Today, the rap videos today, they got, there's always stacks of cash and guns. And it's unbelievable that it's not illegal to have music videos like that. And I love Scarface. I love Goodfellas and all that shit. And I think that has some influence too. But rap videos with stacks of money, like every rapper has to have at least one video in like a jewelry store or like in a coke operation room where they're bagging up coke and there's drugs and there's fucking cash and there's guns. There's so many videos.
It's pretty bad.
There's no way that that's not the reason, these prisons are being filled up. I think that's the main reason. The main reason is the gangster rap, like the hardcore. And a lot of it's awesome. I love it. Like Kodak Black, he's guilty of all that shit, but he got a song called Skrilla. I love the song Skrilla, but man, I'm not easily influenced. I'm not going to kill nobody and go to jail or anything like that.
Yeah.
But young, people are very impressionable, and when they grow up and without any money, and they see all this money, and all you got to do is sell drugs and fucking.
What do you think of DMX?
I think he was the realest one. I think
that's actually what I said. That's what I said on I did a whole deep dive on DMX.
Yeah,
and
he's the realest rapper of all time, and the best one. He's the best one, the realest one. He was against all that shit. He hated P. Diddy. He hated all that crazy shit.
The videos with him, because I actually thought it was hilarious because supposedly P. Diddy has this whole homo agenda with all the rappers. And DMX's description of his meeting with P. Diddy was hilarious because can you imagine if P. Diddy tried to try something with DMX? Is
he was against all that shit. He was against all that.
Well, physically he would have beat P. Diddy up, and it would have been funny if that actually happened. But DMX was definitely the realist, and he specifically talked about how the culture is just because it's made to destroy culture. And not just for black people, they try to rope in as many of all ethnicities to like the music. I mean, I didn't do a whole episode, but I did one of my lives. I was talking about the whole wigger thing where they're trying to with John Cena and Vanilla Ice and all that stuff where they were trying to mainstream the so-called gangster rap culture, not just for black people. It was really weird. It seemed very heavy-handed.
They got Mexicans in on it because there's a lot of Mexican rappers that are super violent and they're causing the same kind of jail time and murder.
Yeah.
And criminal activity. I'm shocked that those videos are allowed to happen. I'm shocked when there are these rap videos and there's all this cash and there are all these guns.
But you know what's kind of crazy? Because a lot of that stuff is pushed by liberals, and they'll go crazy when Donald Trump says something a little bit mean, but they have no problem with all of those videos, the objectification of women and all that.
Yeah, they want to. Yeah, that too. They want to take our guns away from us, but they have no problem with guns in music videos or movies. They have no problem with that. They love that. And
the gun
billboards are always a guy with a gun. You know, there's always
another reason why I do a lot of logical analyses is some of these aren't even debates. Every time you ban guns, the murder rate goes up. Every time governments take guns away from citizens, they people don't know. Piers Morgan, I have nothing positive to say about Piers Morgan. I mean, that guy is such a goof. Like he's talking about, everybody talks about, oh, well, Britain banned guns and now their homicide rate is lower. Their violent crime rate is so much higher than in the U.S., in most of the U.S. because
people.
What?
They stab people and use swords.
Well, not only stab people, they still shoot people. It's just the cops don't keep track of those metrics. Like there's a lot of shady business going on, but not just stab people. You're talking about robberies, sexual assaults. The crime rate is way higher in most of Britain than most of the U.S. The only place where it's high in the U.S. are the Democrat murder capitals. And then this is just another example of illogicality. All these liberal goofs, they want to use the example of red state homicide rates. Where do you think those homicide rates are high? In the Democrat city in the red state. Because the Democrat city has a Democrat mayor and a Democrat city council, like even in Texas. Like in these cities in Texas where the homicide rates are high, or Florida, and it's so disingenuous, like the argumentation. Like it's so obvious to show, like, where are the loosest gun laws? Well, Maine has really loose gun laws. Maine has the lowest violent crime rate in the entire country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this stuff is so easy. Like, I don't even want to engage with that. Or like the abortion stuff. Like, you're going to say an unborn human being is not alive. Like, you just look up the definition in the dictionary. Like, how are you even having a debate? It's weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like the state of illogicality the world has gotten to. Like, I never saw this coming. I don't know about you. But back in like the 90s, could you imagine like what is on the mainstream now? It just doesn't make any sense. It's so crazy how everyone's gotten so dumb.
Yeah, it really is. It seems like it's all coming to a head. Like something really big has got to happen. I mean,
well, the reset
with the whole the whole Middle East situation, and there's a giant light being shown on the Middle East and what's really going on there, more than ever. 5 years ago, no one believed shit, but now it's mainstream now.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's supposed to happen because there's a theory out there that Israel wants everybody to know what they're doing so that everyone's against Israel, so that they could have World War III and then they could build a third temple or some kind of religious shit like that. Like that's why it's all out in the open, because they want it to be out in the open.
Well, I think if the reset is scheduled for approximately 2030 from what I've seen based on different things. So, I mean, just the technological jumps in the past 10 years, like think about it. The jumps from the 80s to 90s weren't that crazy, right? Or from the 70s to the 80s. Look at the jump from even, let's say, 2010 to 2025. Yeah. That jump is huge.
Yeah.
So what kind of a jump is going to happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
And is it sustainable? If it's not sustainable, are we in for the next reset? And then whatever's going to happen, either it's like a Thanos snap and people just disappear, like the 144,000 souls or whatever, and everybody else just vanishes, or there's some kind of advanced weaponry, and then it all starts all over again.
Yeah. It's horrible. Bruce, I'm going to let you go. You're awesome. We're going to do this on a regular basis, man.
We have to.
We got so much shit to.
I hope I didn't leave. Like, if you wanted something specific, I hope I answered it.
Dude, we covered so much.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick. Based on, I know you've done extensive research on John Benet Ramsey. Who do you think did it?
So Jean Benet Ramsey, believe it or not, so the Judge Long Confessions are required reading. He actually mentions Moscow, Idaho as a satanic trafficking corridor of satanic activity. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Moscow murders at the University of Idaho.
I don't know.
Brian Koberger, where it was huge news. Yeah.
What year was that?
It's a couple years ago.
Oh, shit.
It was huge. It was like the biggest thing since O.J. Simpson. Because 4 college kids were stabbed brutally. University of Idaho.
Man.
Yeah, check that out. But I just thought it was interesting because I've never heard of Moscow, Idaho until the Moscow murders at the University of Idaho. But then I discovered Judge Long's confession from years and years ago. This is like around 2000 somewhere, if not earlier, somewhere around there. And he's talking about Moscow, Idaho as a satanic corridor. And so with JonBenet Ramsey, it's not an easy answer. It looks and so John Ramsey, her father, his father Dudley Ramsey was actually involved in North Fox Island, which was trafficking of young boys in Michigan, where his family's from. So
JonBenet Ramsey's father's
father, yeah,
was involved in child trafficking.
Yeah. Well, no, let's not get let's not be sued here. He was involved at North Fox Island. So I don't remember his exact capacity. He was just involved with the guy who owned it, and that guy was involved in trafficking. So he was connected to that guy somehow.
Okay.
And you want to hear something really crazy? Kathy O'Brien, you know Kathy O'Brien,
Yes,
right?
I do know her, whistleblower from
yeah. She said she saw John Ramsey on a boat to there's Beaver Island, which is supposedly where they took the girls, and North Fox Island where they took the boys. She said she saw John Ramsey on a boat one time going to one of the islands. And it gets crazier. Patsy Ramsey was one of the rainbow girls of like the Illuminati Freemasonry secret society rankings, connected to that. And supposedly she's connected to another guy who was an MK Ultra handler, also connected to Kathy O'Brien. So Kathy O'Brien would be good to talk to about the Ramsey case. But those are all weird coincidences, right? And John Ramsey just so happens to have $1 billion company in Axis Graphics. They're creating like, I don't know, some people are saying that was the precursor to like AI and stuff and image processing. But anyway, they're involved with, and so this is Boulder, Colorado, with all these military contractors. And then, so some people believe that JonBenet Ramsey was routinely abused in satanic ritual abuse. There's another whistleblower named Nancy Krebs, and I covered her extensively, and she has a lot of information. So, and the Fleet White and the White family, they're just really weird connections. I'm sure it's all coincidental, right? But supposedly, JonBenet Ramsey died accidentally in satanic ritual abuse, and they covered it up, and that's why it's such a big mess. And so it wasn't like the housekeeper killed her or whatever. But who knows? The housekeeper, if they're the disgruntled housekeeper, I mean, you also have the Santa Claus, who's the Santa Claus of that area. His McReynolds, his wife, coincidentally wrote a play about a girl that gets killed in a basement, like years earlier. I think to the exact day. Like there was some weird anniversary conspiracy to the day. I mean, the coincidence stack is a mile high. You can't make this stuff up. So I don't have an answer for you on who killed her, but I'm not sure it's as clear cut as one person just randomly wanted to abduct or kill her or whatever.
I was talking to someone last night, and JonBenet Ramsey came up, and he said that I don't know how deeply he looked into it, but he said it was her brother.
Her brother's definitely weird, no question. There was actually a third whistleblower, a woman whose husband worked for a government agency, who said that he was involved in that area and that there was something with John Ramsey could never tell the truth. Because can you imagine if it was satanic ritual abuse and John Ramsey's involved in satanic Illuminati stuff? Like, how is he ever going to tell the truth?
Yeah.
And so if Burke, the son, if he knew certain things, like he would definitely not be mentally normal, right? And they might have also MK Ultra'd him to forget what happened.
Yeah.
We never talk about that. Like if there's certain events, people could also be like the whole MIB, lose your memory thing. And
Just
but the
like
thing about
Sirhan, he doesn't remember anything about the RFK assassination. They probably just. He says, everyone said I did it, so I guess I did it, but I don't remember anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the patsies are crazy because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, the answer, what fascinates me about the JonBenet Ramsey case is it seems like every rabbit hole has so many feasibility. Like if you listen to my series, like I spent 1 hour or 2 hours on coincidences that have nothing to do with anything, but somehow there's like 10 levels of coincidence on where the tape was manufactured that was used on her mouth. Like, it's just so weird. It happened to be from the same small town in North Carolina or whatever, that this random blogger was leaking information. Like, what are the chances out of 30,000 cities in the U.S.? Like, these coincidences just catch my eye. It's like statistically, what are the chances? It just doesn't. It's almost like it's all planted there as a psyop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Damn. Well, next time let's get deep into OJ.
Oh yeah, totally. Check out my podcast on OJ because Jason Simpson, again,
his son. Yeah.
Yeah. That would explain everything, wouldn't it? It checks all the boxes. But what a coincidence that Nicole Brown happens to have a best friend in the drug scene connected to mafia cartels, connected to drug cartels. That's kind of a weird coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a lot there too. But all right, this was fun, man.
Oh yeah. So watch. I mean, your YouTube channel is Bruce Maguire.
It's at the Bruce Maguire. Yeah, Maguire.
Yeah, he's got tons and tons of awesome videos breaking shit down. I'm going to talk to Hibbler to see if somehow we can get you involved in calling out the fallacies on Word War. That would be awesome.
It gets exhausting. What I proposed is having a little intro basic logic quiz because most of the people that want to debate, they can't even define logic itself. They don't even know the fallacies. How are they going to be able to engage in a fallacy-free debate if they're not even on like a children's level?
You're right.
It's rough.
All right. Well, we'll do this again soon, man. This was awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I had a ton of fun. Thank you very much for taking the time. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you, dude.
Yep. Take care.
The Jiu Jitsu Dojo is the ultimate training ground for life. Jiu Jitsu will accelerate the evolution of your being, your consciousness, your soul. Through this amazing art, you will prove to yourself that you can master anything you set your mind to.
Happy birthday, Eddie Bravo!
I leave for Brazil tomorrow. Are you the Fear Factor guy? I'm like 6 pounds over. Time to sweat it out. Just imagine someone that has no idea how different your game is.
I'll tell you what this weekend was, man. It was a culmination point where all your hard work comes to like one great moment in time. You showed that you're a fucking champion, guy who goes against convention. You created your own shit and figured interesting ways to get around problems in jiu-jitsu. And shows you that great things are possible if you work hard, if you dedicate yourself, and you use your creativity, and you push through. Your own human potential just goes up.
My 10th Planet Association has grown rapidly to over 70 academies worldwide, and their curriculums are all synced to 10th Planet headquarters located in downtown Los Angeles. I'm Eddie Bravo. I hope to see you on the mats.